Chapter 146. The one called Lao San was the young man in his 20s. His vicious eyes flashed with a cold light like that of a venomous snake. He pulled out a newspaper from somewhere and smashed it hard on Xia Dong's injured face. "Look carefully. The man who died tragically on the street in the newspaper is my brother." Xia Dong tried his best to stretch his neck and finally saw the headline and photo on the newspaper clearly. However, she was sure that she had never seen this man before. "You're mistaken. I don't know him." "Then you might have heard of his name." The scar-faced man suddenly squatted down and pinched her face with 2 fingers. "He's the leader of the Flame Gang. Old K, because of you, he was killed by the gangsters." Old K, this name sounded familiar. A thought flashed through Xia Dong's mind. She scanned the newspaper with difficulty and finally remembered that she had seen this news before. It said that the leader of the Flame Gang died tragically on the street during a fight. However, how could this have anything to do with her? "You remember now?" The scar-faced man laughed sinisterly. "Ts, I know you have a powerful backer. Call him now and tell him to come alone. Otherwise, I'll let you and that little Ts die a horrible death." A powerful backer? Was he referring to Brother Shin? Could it be that Brother Shin had a dispute with the local mafia? Questions flashed through Xia Dong's mind. What she needed to do now was to stall for time so that Mika Kito and the rest could rescue them. She pursed her lips. "I don't know who the backer you're referring to is. Why don't you tell me the whole story, why Old K was cut into pieces by the people of the Black Street? Maybe I can think of something." The knife-scarred man dragged a chair over and sat down. He stepped on her arm and grinned viciously. "Don't try to play tricks with me. Otherwise, I'll strangle that little Ts to death first." He gave third brother a look and he immediately walked over to Xiao Yi. Xia Dong endured the excruciating pain in her arm and propped herself up to protect Xiao Yi. She said sternly, "Don't move. I'm not playing any tricks. I really don't know who your backer is." The scar-faced man sneered. Third brother didn't stop walking. He bent down and stretched out his arm to push Xia Dong over. Then he grabbed Xiao Yi's collar and lifted him off the ground. As Xiao Yi's tiny body was lifted into the air, Xia Dong's heart almost stopped beating. She screamed in panic, "Don't hurt him. Please, don't hurt him." She struggled to get up from the ground. Her legs were tied up, so she could only jump towards Lao San. She said anxiously, "I beg you, let him go. He can't breathe." Xiao Yi's throat was choked by the collar, and his little face gradually changed color due to the difficulty of breathing. His clear eyes were filled with an uncomfortable mist, and he struggled with all his might, kicking his short legs. Xia Dong's heart ached as she bit third brother's arm. In it, "How dare you bite me?" Third brother grabbed Xiao Yi with one hand and raised his other hand to slap Xia Dong's face. Xia Dong's face swelled even more, and blood flowed down from the corner of her mouth. She gritted her teeth and said coldly, "Let him go. I'll make a call right away." If they had been so obedient, they wouldn't have had to suffer so much. The scar-faced man glanced at third brother. Third brother placed Xiao Yi on the ground. Suddenly, a cold voice pierced through the air. "There's no need to make a call. I'm here." The sound of heavy footsteps clearly beat on Xia Dong's eardrums. She suddenly raised her head and widened her eyes in disbelief. A tall and imposing figure slowly walked in from the door. His face was backlit, so she couldn't see his expression clearly. But he was emitting a domineering and ruthless aura like a king, which made her heart tremble. It was Bailey Han. He had actually found them, and had come to meet them alone. Bailey Han's sharp eyes swept across the battered and exhausted Xiao Yi and Xia Dong, whose cheeks were red and swollen. The murderous look in his eyes suddenly exploded and shot out, but it was quickly hidden behind a calm and indifferent expression. More than 10 hooligans surrounded Bailey Han with knives and other weapons in their hands. They glared at him. Bailey Han didn't take their threats seriously and walked forward fearlessly. He only stopped when the scar-faced man put his hand on Xia Dong's throat and looked at them coldly. "You're old Mo, Old K's younger brother." Old Mo sneered. "That's right. Young Master Bailey, I didn't expect you to track us here so quickly. It seems like you're this bitch's backer? His fingers gently rubbed Xia Dong's fair neck. Suddenly, he exerted force and she raised her neck in pain. Old Emo smiled evilly. I didn't expect that Mika Kito's woman would have an affair with Bailey Han. Bitch, don't tell me that the little bastard next to you is also your and Bailey Han's child? Xia Dong glared at him in anger and pain. She bit her lips but didn't say a word. She and Xiao Yi were in their hands. If they were angered, who knew what they would do? Bailey Han's hands silently moved to his back. Old Emo noticed his movement and grabbed Xiao Yi to block in front of him. He said sternly, Bailey Han, throw away your weapon. Otherwise, I'll take your son's life first. Bailey Han pulled out a handgun from his back and threw it to the ground. You guys, search him and see if he has any weapons. Old Emo dragged Xia Dong and took a few steps back. With a bang, he kicked the pistol away and ordered his men to search Xia Dong's body. Bailey Han expressionlessly allowed them to search him. The hooligan took a dagger from his calf and threw it to the ground. They didn't find anything else. He looked at Old Emo indifferently. Old Emo, you're venting your anger on a woman and a child. You and your brother are indeed from the same womb. Old K had once drugged Xia Dong and sent several subordinates to gang rape her. Of course, Old Emo knew about this matter. When he heard Bailey Han's sarcastic words, he immediately flew into a rage out of humiliation. He couldn't help but curse, Bailey Han, don't King pretend to be a hero for me here. Picking up Beitang Shin's broken shoes and wearing a green hat. You're just a dirty person. Bailey Han's eyes flashed with murderous intent. He said coldly, your brother asked for it. He's lucky that I only let the men of the Black Street stab him once. Old Emo sneered. Bailey Han, I'm not going to talk nonsense with you. I'm here today to avenge my brother. Old San, take it out. Old San took a paper thing and threw it to Bailey Han. Bailey Han flipped through the thing in his hand and said coldly, you want 20% of the shares of Shenghao Group. What a big appetite. Old Emo was not easy to deal with. When he decided to take revenge, he had already investigated Xia Dong's interpersonal relationships. He knew that she had the best relationship with 3 men, Mika Kito, Bailey Han, and Bailey Yun. No matter which one of them was her backer, he had prepared a corresponding plan to deal with them. Old Emo grabbed the pen and threw it to Bailey Han. He said fiercely, don't talk nonsense. Hurry up and sign it, or I'll kill your son and your mistress. He suddenly grabbed Xia Dong's hair. Xia Dong endured the pain and tried hard to move back. She did not make a sound. Bailey Han's heart trembled. Using the act of looking at the contract as an excuse, his left hand quietly touched his belt. There was a thin steel knife deeply embedded in it. Although the blade was shorter than a thumb, it was abnormally sharp and was enough to cut a fatal wound. But he hesitated and did not make a move. There was only one knife. He was confident that he could shoot the knife into the heart of the young man called Old San. He was also confident that he could save Xia Dong from Old Emo at the same time. But he was not confident that he could take them to avoid the siege of more than 10 people and the shooting of guns. He took back his hand and continued to think with the pen. If he signed the contract, Old Emo would definitely not let them go. But if he did not sign it, Xia Dong and Xiao Yi would be in their hands. He was in a dilemma. Old Emo couldn't wait any longer. He grabbed Xia Dong's clothes and tore them apart. With the sound of fabric tearing, her dress was torn from her chest, and her snow-white skin was exposed. Her hands were tied behind her back, and there was no way to cover her exposed breasts. Her face was so hot that it was about to bleed. She bit her lips and stared at Old Emo. Look at her tender skin. It must taste good when I do it. Old Emo grinned and dragged Xia Dong to the sofa. Bailey Han's voice suddenly sounded, I've signed it. Come and get it. Old Emo paused and glanced at Xia Dong, whose face was red with blood. He laughed sinisterly. He did not expect that mysterious woman to have some skills. A few days ago, a mysterious woman contacted him and said that she knew that his brother was killed by the backer behind Xia Dong. She also said that Bailey Yi was Xia Dong's illegitimate son. She cared about Bailey Yi very much. If she used Bailey Yi to threaten her, It would definitely be twice the result with half the effort. Old Mo wasn't a fool. Of course, he could tell that the other party wanted to use him to get rid of Xia Dong and Bailey Yi. However, this was also an opportunity for his elder brother, Old K, to take revenge as well as a chance for him to make a fortune. It was not fun to just kill people. He also wanted to get the compensation that he deserved. You guys, tie his hands up for me. Old Mo was cunning. Naturally, he would not easily believe Bailey Han. After two of his men tied Bailey Han's wrists with ropes, he waved his hand and asked someone to bring the contract over. The three big characters were indeed Bailey Han's signature. Old Mo was ecstatic and laughed loudly. After a few laughs, he suddenly stopped and stared at Bailey Han gloomily. Bailey Han, you killed my brother. I will not let you go easily. But you can rest assured that I will send you to hell for the sake of you transferring 20% of your shares to me. Lao San, bring the things I have prepared for young Master Bailey. Let him and his mistress have a good time and then go to hell. Xia Dong said in a hoarse voice, let the child go. He is innocent. Awesome novel, Song Shu 566. Chapter 147. Bah! Old Mo spat. I'm not stupid enough to leave anyone alive. Although Yen Gang had some influence, it was nothing compared to Bailey's family. He was already taking a risk by coming here, so he naturally had to be careful. Brothers, go. Quickly serve eldest young master. Old Mo took out several bottles of syringes, and a large group of people rushed forward. Some injected him with syringes, while others fed him pills. Xiao Yi and Xia Dong were in Old Mo's hands, so Bailey Han could not resist. He was forced to swallow the pills and coughed incessantly. Old Mo let go of Xia Dong, and Old Mo also let go of Xiao Yi. Old Mo walked to Bailey Han's side and kicked him. Bailey's eldest young master, you think you're so great? Now you're lying in front of me like a dead dog. But, brothers, let's quickly retreat and set a fire outside the factory. Let this unfortunate pair of lovebirds come from the water and into the fire. While they were simply packing up, Xia Dong moved to Xiao Yi's side. She gently tugged at the corner of Xiao Yi's clothes with her hands behind her back. Xiao Yi's eyes were sharp. He immediately saw that the ropes on Xia Dong's tied wrists were in a mess because of the needles, leaving only a few thin joints. Her wrists were red and abraded, probably caused by pulling the rope too hard. His eyes flashed, and he suddenly crouched down and bit the rope with his teeth. Xia Dong's body stiffened. She tugged at Xiao Yi's clothes to tell him not to worry, but she did not expect him to bite the rope for her. Her heart ached, but more than that she felt warm. Second brother, where's that kid? The group of people had already walked to the door when third brother suddenly turned around and shouted. Old Mo also became alert and turned around. Because Xia Dong was blocking Xiao Yi's body, he did not see Xiao Yi. He was shocked. That kid couldn't have escaped, right? Second brother, what should we do? Lao San, go in and have a look. Old Mo handed Bailey Han's gun to Lao San. Be careful. The heavy footsteps were getting closer and closer. Xia Dong's heart was beating like a drum. Suddenly, she felt the pressure on her wrist loosen. She quietly moved her wrist without showing any signs of movement. Xiao Yi also straightened her body and slowly moved out from behind her. Third brother, who had been staring at them the whole time, was stunned when third brother suddenly appeared in his line of sight. He raised his voice and said, Second brother, this brat looks very strange. I don't feel at ease leaving him alive. Why don't I get rid of him first? Old Mo certainly wouldn't object to the fact that he would die sooner or later. Third brother walked closer, raised the gun with one hand, and pointed the muzzle at Xiao Yi's forehead. Xia Dong suddenly reached out and pulled Xiao Yi behind her. Third brother's eyes turned cold and he quickly pulled the trigger. Xia Dong hugged Xiao Yi and rolled on the ground to avoid the bullet. At the same time, Bailey Han suddenly stood up from the ground. He forcibly broke the rope on his wrist and kicked third brother's temple heavily. Clang! The gun in third brother's hand fell to the ground. His huge body also fell to the ground. The accident happened in an instant. Old Mo and the group of hooligans were stunned. Old Mo was the first to react and quickly pulled out his gun. Bailey Han's right hand had quickly shot out a throwing knife from his waist. The throwing knife hit Old Mo's forehead. Blood spurted out and he fell down without a sound. Bailey Han strode forward and bent down to pick up the gun on the ground. He aimed at the group of hooligans and fired. In an instant, 3 or 4 of them fell down. The rest of the hooligans were like headless dragons and had long scattered in fear. The fight only lasted for 2 or 3 minutes, but Xia Dong felt that it was as long as a lifetime. She protected Xiao Yi and hid behind the sofa. When the gunshots stopped, she hugged Xiao Yi and covered his eyes and ran out from behind the sofa. "Bailey Han, how are you?" She saw that Bailey Han was sweating profusely. His face was pale and he was tottering. She knew that the medicine that old Mo had fed him had taken effect. The pile of red and green pills and medicine was mixed with various hallucinogens and stimulants. There was even an aphrodisiac. Xiao Yi's body stiffened and he reached out to push Xia Dong's hand away. Xia Dong's voice trembled. "Xiao Yi, don't look." She was afraid of scaring him with the corpses and rivers of blood in front of him. But he insisted. He wanted to see how Daddy was doing. Xia Dong understood his thoughts. She could only put him down with his back facing the door and let go of his eyes. Bailey Han could not hold on any longer. He forced himself to take off his coat and threw it to Xia Dong, who was barely dressed. He fell to the floor with a plop. His body began to twitch and he said in a hoarse voice, "Water, quickly find water. Xiao Yi, stay here. Don't run around." Xia Dong said anxiously as she put on his coat. She glanced around and found an empty mineral water bottle in the corner. She quickly ran over to pick it up and ran out to get tap water. After Bailey Han filled his stomach with water, he vomited violently in the corner. As the pill had stayed in his stomach for a long time, he vomited out white foam. Although he had his stomach pumped, the injection of medicine could not eliminate the effects of the drug. The strong effects of the medicine affected his brain. His body was burning hot, his head was spinning, and his mind was in a mess. Xia Dong anxiously rummaged through his coat pocket, trying to find his phone. Xiao Yi squatted beside him and bit her lip. She took out his phone from his trouser pocket. She hurriedly dialed Mika Kito's number. "Brother Shin, we're in an abandoned factory in the suburbs. I don't know the exact location. Bailey Han has been poisoned and needs a doctor. Brother Shin, this is Bailey Han's phone. You can track his signal." After saying this, she did not hang up. Instead, she put the phone aside and paid attention to Bailey Han's condition. His whole body was convulsing and he was delirious. His face was so red that it looked like it was roasted. But other than waiting, there was nothing she could do. She could only watch him suffer. Her heart throbbed with pain. At this moment, he suddenly opened his eyes. His blood-red eyes stared at her like a ferocious beast. At this moment, her dress was in tatters. Although she was wearing his suit jacket, because his jacket was too big, the cleavage in front of her chest was faintly discernible. He suddenly roared like a lion that had gone berserk. He pounced up from the ground and pressed down on her. Xia Dong was caught off guard. The first thing she did was to protect her abdomen with both hands. She did not have any extra hands to block his attack. His burning hot body pressed against hers forcefully. His body was tense and stiff like a rock, pressing down on her tightly. Xia Dong felt a hard stick-like object hit her leg hard. Her heart immediately panicked. She knew what it was. He was like a mad beast. He used all his strength to separate her legs. That burning weapon collided heavily between her legs. She struggled with all her might and tried her best to avoid it. She fiercely bit his arm and shouted anxiously, "Bailey Han, wake up!" Fresh blood flowed down his arm. The sharp pain cleared his mind for a second. He wanted to push her away, but his body's instincts made it impossible for him to resist. He said in a hoarse voice, "Hit. Knock me out." In the next second, the demon in his body gained the upper hand. The thing between his legs started to move again. His heavy breathing and painful cries were transmitted to Mika Kito's ears through the phone. He flew into a rage. He sped up and shouted anxiously, "Bailey Han, stop it right now." Xia Dong was being pressed down. She was in unbearable pain. Other than the sharp pain between her legs, her abdomen was also starting to hurt. She did not have time to think. She had to find something to knock Bailey Han out. As far as her arm could reach, there was nothing she could use. She kept moving her body to block his attacks. However, he was too strong. She could not hold on for much longer. Just as she was about to give up, Xiao Yi, who had been silent all this time, suddenly ran away. Soon, he ran back with a wooden stick and handed it to Xia Dong. Xia Dong closed her eyes. She gritted her teeth and swung the wooden stick at the back of his head. His movements suddenly paused. His pupils constricted. His blood-red eyes stared straight at her. That ferocious look made him look like a malicious spirit that had crawled out of hell. Xia Dong shuddered. She was so scared that her heart almost stopped beating. She thought that she was about to die. However, he suddenly roared and got up from her body. Like a wild bull in the wind, he charged at the stone pillar. With a loud bang, his tall body fell to the ground, and he no longer moved. Xia Dong's heart suddenly tightened. She widened her eyes in shock. She had never expected that he would hit his head and bleed. She was shocked, scared, and touched. She wanted to go forward to check on his condition, but the pain between her legs was burning. The pain in her abdomen also intensified. She trembled and wanted to get up, but she didn't succeed. Xiao Yi glanced at her. She bit her lip and turned to run to Bailey Han's side. Bailey Han's face was covered in blood. He lay motionless on the ground. Xiao Yi panicked. She used her little hand to push his arm. Her tears fell and she cried, "Daddy, Daddy, wake up. It's all my fault. I shouldn't have run around. Daddy, wake up." Xiao Yi was willing to talk. Xia Dong was in pain and surprise. Coupled with fear and sadness, all kinds of complicated emotions mixed together. She couldn't help but feel a lump in her throat. She forced herself to get up from the ground and walked to Bailey Han's side. His face was covered in blood. She trembled as she checked his breathing. Fortunately, although his breathing was weak, at least he was still alive. She immediately saw the part below his abdomen that was almost poking through his pants. She awkwardly averted her gaze. There were so many stimulants and aphrodisiacs. He wouldn't explode, right? Actually, she could help him with it, but her son was beside him. She touched Xiao Yi, who was crying bitterly. She comforted him and herself. "Xiao Yi, don't worry. Your daddy will be fine. He will be fine." Attention, Song Shu 566. Chapter 148. Her stomach hurt more and more. She took a deep breath and tried to calm herself down. Sitting on the floor, she didn't forget to comfort Xiao Yi softly. The sound of footsteps was chaotic and anxious. Xia Dong looked up at the door and saw Mika Kito's tall figure running over. In the empty factory, he didn't even notice the mess on the floor. In his heart, there was only Xia Dong. He ran over and hugged her tightly in his arms. Xia, don't be afraid. I'll take you home." She had suddenly disappeared in the aquarium. On the phone, when he heard that Bailey Han had been drugged and wanted to humiliate her, he was anxious and angry. He wanted nothing more than to fly to her side immediately. Seeing her in such a sorry state, his heart was about to break. His heart was beating wildly, and even she could feel it. She endured the pain and patted his back gently. She tried to smile. "Brother Shin, where's the doctor? Let the doctor take a look at Bailey Han. He's seriously poisoned. Also, my stomach hurts a little." Mika Kito quickly relaxed his arms a little. Worried that he would press on her stomach, he shouted, Doctor. Soon, a doctor and nurse, along with 4 of their men, rushed in with a stretcher. Mika Kito asked the doctor to treat Xia Dong first, but Xia Dong refused. She wanted to see Bailey Han's condition first. Fortunately, the doctor knew about her condition and asked the nurse to give her an injection. Bailey Han's condition was more complicated. The doctor pumped his stomach on the spot, gave him a cardiac stimulant, and bandaged his wound briefly. Then they were sent to the hospital. Mika Kito first carried Xia Dong into the car and then carried Xiao Yi. Xiao Yi insisted on staying by Bailey Han's side. Xia Dong wrapped a blanket around him and hugged his small body. He didn't resist or struggle. He let her hug him as he stared blankly at the lifeless Bailey Han lying on the stretcher. When they arrived at the hospital, Mika Kito ignored her objections and carried her all the way to the obstetrics and gynecology department. Fortunately, she controlled her emotions well and performed emergency treatment in time. The child was not in danger. Bailey Han was pushed to the emergency room. The doctor said that not only did he have drug poisoning, but he also had a serious skull injury. Xia Dong couldn't help but think of the scene when he crashed into the stone pillar. The clear sound of the stone hitting his head kept echoing in her ears. His bloodied face was still in front of her. Her heart ached. She grabbed Mika Kito's arm and asked in a trembling voice, "Brother Shin, will he die?" "No, he won't die." Mika Kito felt his heart ache when he saw her like this. Why wasn't he the first to find her? Why wasn't he the one who protected her when she was in danger? Ever since he came to the hospital, little Wingzy seemed to have regained his usual cold expression. He sat on the bench with his back straight and stared at the emergency room door without blinking. Xia, you must be tired. I'll take you back first." Mika Kito gently patted her back and coaxed her gently. "It's okay. I'm fine now." She looked at Xiao Yi and said softly, "Brother Shin, you should inform Bailey's family." Her face was pale, her hair was messy, her cheeks were swollen, her lips were cracked and stained with blood. She almost had a miscarriage. She didn't look like she was fine at all. His heart ached and his eyes were filled with tenderness. He held her hand and said, "Don't worry, I'll take care of it. I'll get Liuxing to take you home first. I'll stay here with Xiao Yi and wait for his family." Xia Dong looked up at the emergency room light and then looked at Xiao Yi, who was sitting upright on the bench. She said, "Brother Shin, I want to stay. Can I borrow your phone? I want to tell Yezi that I'm safe." Mika Kito still wanted to persuade her, but she stretched out her hand and placed it in front of him. She looked like she wouldn't give up until she got what she wanted. "Brother Shin, don't try to persuade me anymore. Give me the phone." Mika Kito sighed and placed the phone in her hand. Xia Dong called Yi Siki and learned that she had sent the children home and was still at home with Xiao Bao and Xiao Guai. Yi Siki shouted over the phone and Xiao Bao and Xiao Guai immediately ran over. They surrounded the phone and called, "Mommy." She said a few more words to them before ending the call. 10 minutes later, the people from the Bailey family hurried over. Bailey Xiong walked at the front. Old Madame Xiao was leaning on a walking stick and Bai Jinxiu was holding her arm. The two of them walked in the second row anxiously. Bailey Yun looked indifferent as he walked at the back. "Mr. Baiting, how is my son?" Bailey Xiong looked anxious and didn't bother to exchange pleasantries. Mika Kito stood up. "The doctor is giving him first aid." Old Madame Zhao's eyes were red. She picked up Xiao Yi and stroked his head lovingly. "What happened? How did Ahan get hurt so badly?" Mika Kito said calmly, "Xia and Xiao Yi were kidnapped. Mr. Bailey was the first to arrive. He subdued the kidnappers and was injured himself." Old Madame Zhao's expression changed when she heard this. She looked at Xia Dong with some dissatisfaction in her eyes, but she didn't flare up because of Mika Kito. Bai Jinxiu couldn't help but shout at Xia Dong, "Xia Dong, it's you again. Haven't you heard Ahan enough? You'll only be satisfied if he dies, won't you?" After Bailey Yun came over, his attention was on Xia Dong. Her face was badly injured and she was wearing Bailey Han's coat. He didn't know if she was hurt. He noticed that she had been sitting in the chair and didn't get up even when they came over. He guessed that she must be very tired now, or maybe it was because of her injuries that she couldn't get up to deal with them. His feelings were complicated and his heart ached. When he heard Bai Jinxiu's reprimand, he could not help retorting, "Auntie, what you're saying is too unreasonable. Big Bro saved Xia Dong of his own volition. Besides, little Wingzy was also kidnapped. Should Big Bro just watch as little Wingzy gets hurt?" Bai Jinxiu was provoked by his words and couldn't help but blurt out, Xiao Yi is also her." "Enough." Old Madam interrupted her, her cold gaze falling on her. She suddenly quivered and realized that something was wrong. She almost spilled the beans. What's the point of making such a racket in the hospital? Old Madame Xiao glared at Bailey Yun again and glanced at Xia Dong indifferently. There was no lack of warning in her eyes. Xia Dong looked indifferent and seemed to turn a deaf ear to their quarrel. She had already expected this to happen, so she wasn't surprised at all and didn't care. Mika Keto didn't want her to be wronged. She held her hand and said in a deep voice, "You'll know the details when Mr. Bailey wakes up. Isn't it too much to blame Xia Xia now?" Bai Jingxiu looked indifferent and didn't look ashamed at all. Old Madame Xiao lowered her head and stroked Xiao Yi as if she didn't hear anything. Bailey Han coughed and stood up to smooth things over. "Mr. Beitang is right. We were too hasty." Mika Keto snorted coldly and didn't say anything else. They sat in the corridor and waited for more than 10 minutes before the doctor came out of the emergency room. He said that the patient was out of danger, but his condition was a little serious. He still had to do a brain check on the head injury. Other than Bailey Yun, the other 3 members of the Bailey family looked very upset. Old Madame Xiao hurriedly interrupted the doctor, as if she didn't want the doctor to talk about Bailey Han's condition in front of Xia Dong and the others. Xia Dong lowered her eyes. She knew it was time for her to leave. She politely said goodbye and didn't look at Xiao Yi. With Mika Keto's help, she stood up. Mika Keto suddenly bent down and carried her in his arms. Ignoring Bailey Yun's murderous gaze and the others' surprised gazes, he swaggered her into the car. When they arrived at the neighborhood, Mika Keto carried her out of the car and carried her upstairs. If it were any other time, she would have rejected him. But now, she stretched out her arms and wrapped them around his neck. She bit her lower lip and frowned slightly, as if she was suppressing something. Mika Keto's heart skipped a beat. He suspected that she was injured too. When they got home, Yisiki was still at home with the children. She couldn't help but tear up when she saw Xia Dong's injuries. The 2 children were even more anxious. Xiao Guai was so heartbroken that she cried. Xiao Bao was so angry that his teeth itched. He wanted to cut the person who hurt his mother into pieces. Xia Dong comforted the children gently. Mika Keto went into the bathroom to fill the tub with hot water. When he came out, he said to Yisiki, "Siki, can you help Xia Xia clean up?" Xia Dong thought about the injuries on her body and immediately blushed. No, it's okay. I can do it myself." Yisiki pretended to be relaxed. "Why are you so shy? It's not like I haven't seen it before. I even helped you scrub your back when we were in university." Ignoring her objections, he forcibly helped her into the bathroom. Yisiki reached out, but Xia Dong quickly pressed her hand down. "Yezi, I'll take it off myself." She gently took off her jacket, revealing her tattered dress. Yisiki's pupils shrank. She saw a bruise on Xia Dong's arm. After taking off her dress, she saw countless abrasions on her body. Yisiki's eyes welled up with tears. Her nose twitched and she almost cried. "Yezi, you can go out. I can do it myself." Xia Dong awkwardly clamped her legs together. When she was taking off her clothes, she noticed that there was a serious abrasions between her legs. Her attempt to cover up made it even more conspicuous. Yisiki noticed the abrasions between her legs, which made it easy for her to guess what had happened. The tears in Yisiki's eyes finally fell. She bit her lip and didn't say a word. She helped Xia Dong into the bathtub, wetted a towel, and wiped her body. Her movements were as gentle as a feather. Xia Dong knew what she was thinking. She reached out and gently held her hand. She said softly, "Yezi, actually, he didn't hurt me. He took so many stimulants and aphrodisiacs. In order not to hurt me, he would rather bang his head against a pillar." Towards the end, her voice choked up. That moment brought her so much shock that even now, when she thought about it, she was still shaken to the core. Song Shu 566. Chapter 149. Yisiki froze for a moment. She thought that Bailey Han had hurt Xia Xia, but she didn't expect it to be like this. After a long time, she sighed softly and said, "Xia Xia, sometimes I can't help but think that Bailey Han actually loves you. If it wasn't love, why would he do so many unbelievable things?" Xia Dong was stunned. Because of her words, her heart was in a mess. It seemed that he really did treat her differently. The soft wet cloth gently brushed against her shoulder, careful not to touch her wound. The gentle touch pulled her back to reality. She rubbed her forehead and said softly, "The person he loves should be Su Yunqian. They are a match made in heaven." Yi Siki sneered as if she had heard a joke. They are a match made in heaven? Of course not. Let me tell you, 2 days ago, old Lin told me something. Bailey Han and Su Yunqian went to his place for a checkup. Su Yunqian went behind Bailey Han's back and wanted old Lin to lie for her. Lie? Lie. Of course she wanted old Lin to say that she was pregnant. Yi Siki curled her lips in disdain. For a woman to lie to her fiancé and say that she was pregnant, there can only be one possibility. There must be something going on between them. This woman is starting to get scared and wants to use the child to tie her fiancé down. Xia Dong fell silent. She already knew that there was something going on between Bailey Han and Su Yunqian. Perhaps she had to take some responsibility for it. Old Lin also said that when he heard that Su Yunqian wasn't pregnant, Bailey Han's expression turned ugly. Without saying a word, he dragged Su Yunqian away. From the looks of it, the two of them must have quarreled. Yi Siki's tone was full of schadenfreude. Su Yunqian even threatened old Lin. You didn't see the look of panic on her face. Xia Dong pursed her lips. Look at how vividly you described it. It's like you've seen it before. I haven't, but old Lin has. Yi Siki gently stroked her hair, her tone filled with pride. Xia Dong's lips curved, but she didn't argue with her. To be honest, if Bailey Han is really interested in you, you should develop a good relationship and give the children a complete family. Yi Siki said so much, but this was the main point. A complete family. Xia Dong was stunned. The first thing that came to her mind was the scene of Xiao Yi crying in front of Bailey Han at the abandoned factory. Her heart suddenly ached, but the scene changed to 5 years ago. She was lying in the delivery room in the hospital. The old lady broke in with her bodyguards and mercilessly snatched the newborn child from the doctor's hands. At the time, the old lady said, "According to our agreement, I'm taking the child away. If you try anything funny again, you can expect to collect your aunt and uncle's corpses." Japan was under Brother Shin's influence. Originally, it was impossible for the old lady to leave with the child. However, she used the lives of her aunt and uncle to threaten Xia Dong. In the end, she carried the child and swaggered away. Xia Dong leaned against the bathtub tiredly and said calmly, "Yeezy, first of all, I don't want to get married. I can't even get past the old lady. I know my position very well. I don't want to talk about relationships right now. I just want to take good care of the children. I'm just worried about you. You're a pregnant woman with 2 children. Xiao Guai is even sick. Just thinking about it gives me a headache." Yi Siki frowned and poked her forehead. "Why don't you want to get married? Why are you so distrustful of relationships? Look at me and old Lin. We've been married for 7 years and we're still doing well." Xia Dong laughed. "Oh, you've been married for 7 years. I wish you success in getting through the 7-year itch. I have full confidence in old Lin." Yi Siki's face was full of pride. She had always been proud of her husband and trusted him wholeheartedly. "All right, my proud Mrs. Lin, my skin is about to fall off because of you. Can you get up now?" What Xia Dong didn't say was that the wound on her thigh was stained with water and it hurt even more. "Yes, it's fine. Let me help you up. Wait a moment, I'll help you apply medicine." Yi Siki took a clean towel and was about to wipe her wound. Xia Dong quickly snatched it from her. "Mrs. Lin, I can do it myself. Please leave us alone for a moment." Yi Siki rolled her eyes. "I've seen your entire body. Why are you still shy?" Although she said that, she still put the bathrobe in a convenient place and walked out of the bathroom. Xia Dong wrapped herself in the bathrobe. The fabric rubbed against her wound painfully. She frowned and pretended to be normal as she walked out of the bathroom. Mika Kito took the first aid kit and sat on the sofa to wait for her. Yi Siki was nowhere to be seen. "Brother Shin, where's Yezi?" Xia Dong wiped her wet hair. Mika Kito naturally took the towel from her and gently wiped her wound. She went back first. She said she was going to cook for Lin Shihao and Nyonyo. "I'll help you apply medicine later." Xia Dong was speechless. Could she show Brother Shin her wound? That bastard Yezi must have done it on purpose. Yi Siki did it on purpose. She spared no effort to matchmake her best friend and quickly get married. Because she was pregnant, she didn't even use a hairdryer after washing her hair. She let it dry naturally. Mika Kito wiped her hair carefully with the towel. When her hair was almost dry, he combed her hair with his slender fingers. His fingers weaved through her hair. Xia Dong lowered her head in embarrassment, revealing half of her fair neck. Under the soft lighting, she looked even more charming. Mika Kito tucked her long hair behind her ear and said gently, "Okay, let's go back to the room now. I'll apply medicine for you." Xia Dong quickly grabbed his hand that was carrying the first aid kit and smiled awkwardly. "It's okay, Brother Shin. I can do it myself." "You can't do it yourself." Before Yi Siki left, he had specifically told her that she had a wound on her back too. He knew she was shy, but he was more worried about the wound on her back getting infected. "Then I won't do it. It's just a small wound." "It's okay." Xia Dong's face was burning. "I'm your older brother. You don't have to worry about so many things." Mika Kito frowned. "Do you want me to carry you or do you want to walk on your own?" Xia Dong pulled a long face. "Brother Shin." Mika Kito was determined. Ignoring her resistance, he bent down and picked her up. Xia Dong sat on her bed while Mika Kito stood beside her bed. His gaze was strong but not lustful. He was as calm and rational as a doctor looking at his patient. "I'll just treat him as a doctor." Xia Dong comforted herself for a long time. In the end, she gritted her teeth and turned her back to him. She slowly pulled open her bathrobe and covered her chest with the blanket. Her snow-white back was covered with bruises and abrasions. Her skin was broken and red, and sticky liquid was flowing out. If it wasn't treated soon, it would get infected. Mika Kito's face was very pale. He took the iodine and tried to disinfect her wound as gently as possible. Although his movements were very gentle, every time the cotton swab touched the wound, it stung. Her body would tremble slightly, and so would his heart. After cleaning the wound on her back, Mika Kito was sweating profusely. His voice was a little low. "Are you hurt anywhere else?" "A little, but I can apply the ointment myself." She wanted to pull up her bathrobe, but he grabbed her wrist. He said softly, "Don't be in a hurry to put it on. The mucus from the wound on your back will stick to the bathrobe. It will be very painful when you take it off. When you sleep tonight, lie on your side. Be careful not to let the blanket touch your wound." "Okay." Xia Dong blushed. She didn't know what to say. He poured out 2 pills and put them on the bedside. Xia, I put some anti-inflammatory medicine on the bedside. Remember to take it later." "Okay." "Remember to treat the other wounds. I'll make you something to eat." Mika Kito touched her head. His voice was full of tenderness. "What do you want to eat tonight?" "Seafood porridge. Brother Shin's seafood porridge is very delicious." Mika Kito's lips curved into a smile. Xia Dong breathed a sigh of relief when she heard the door close. She got out of bed and locked the door. She took off her bathrobe completely. Her legs were bruised and covered with bruises, especially at the base of her legs, where the skin was scraped. When she disinfected her wound with the iodine, it was so painful that she saw stars. After disinfecting her wound, she applied the special ointment Mika Kito left for her and took the anti-inflammatory medicine. Then, she covered herself with the blanket and lay on her side to rest. Beitangshen left the room and comforted the children with a few words. Then, he took his phone out and went to the corridor outside. With a cold face, he dialed Jiang Dao's number. "Have you found those who escaped?" "There are 2 more. I'll give you 1 day. I want to see their bodies." "Sir." Mika Kito was busy in the kitchen when he heard the doorbell ring. Through the peephole, he saw Bailey Yun standing at the door, sweating profusely. It was obvious that he was in a hurry. He opened the door and looked at Bailey Yun expressionlessly. "What's the matter, Master Tingrui?" Bailey Yun's pupils shrank. He saw Xia Dong injured at the hospital and was worried about her. He found an excuse to call her, but she did not answer. He was so worried that he could not help but rush over. He did not expect to run into Mika Kito. Bailey Yun smiled. "I'm here to see Xia. He moved sideways and wanted to enter the door. Mika Kito moved sideways and blocked his way. He said coldly, Master Tingrui, you don't have to worry about Xia Xia. In the future, please stay away from Xia Xia. Bailey Yun's handsome face was cold. He gritted his teeth and said, Mika Kito, Xia Xia can be with whoever she wants. You have no right to interfere with her business. Mika Kito glanced indifferently. I'm her fiancé. If I don't have the right, who does? Bailey Yun sneered. Fiancé? That's fake. I already know that your engagement is fake. In the end, you're just Xia Xia's friend. What right do you have to stop me from seeing her? Awesome novel, Song Shu 566. Chapter 150. Mika Kito's gaze was sinister and sharp. Because I have the ability to do so. Bailey Yun's face turned pale. This sentence directly hit his weak spot. He was only an illegitimate son of the Bailey family. Other than having a nominal position in the Bailey group, he had no ability to compete with him for Xia Xia. He clenched his fists and gritted his teeth. His slender foxy eyes were filled with anger, humiliation, and hatred. In the end, all the complicated emotions turned into powerlessness. His voice was low and hoarse. Is she badly injured? Mika Kito replied expressionlessly. Not really. I've already applied medicine on her. Of course, I helped her apply it myself. Bailey Yun was furious. He raised his fist and wanted to punch him in the face, but he was caught by the arm. He lowered his voice and said, Bailey Yun, the children are here. I don't want to mess around with you. Mika Kito suddenly flung his arm away and slammed the door shut. Bailey Yun angrily punched the wall. He didn't care that the back of his hand was bleeding. He drove the Lamborghini like the wind. He was full of complicated emotions but had nowhere to vent. In the end, he rushed into Charming Club with a murderous aura. He drank one glass after another to drown his sorrows. Many beauties came forward to hit on him. He shot daggers at them and coldly spat out, "Get lost." The women ran away in tears. Bai Li Yun's entire body emitted a powerful aura of resentment and anger. No one dared to approach within 3 meters of him. However, there was one person who wasn't afraid of death. He patted his shoulder and lazily said, I say, second young master, what happened today? There are broken hearts all over the floor of my bar. Bailey Yun flung Xiao Tianxing's hand away. His foxy eyes were slightly drunk. Xiao Tianxing, am I a failure as a person? Xiao Tianxing's sloppy smile froze. Oh, you've suffered a blow? Why are you suddenly talking about such a heavy topic? Don't play around with me. I want to hear the truth. Bailey Yun picked up another glass of wine and gulped it down. Xiao Tianxing sat down beside him. You're the object of thousands of women. If this is considered a failure, how can others live? Bailey Yun smiled bitterly. So what if others are chasing after you? She's the only one who doesn't care. Xiao Tianxing knew he was talking about Xia Dong. He rubbed his eyebrows. She is already a member of Mika Kito. I advise you to give up. Bailey Yun drank another glass, and his mind was already in a mess. He laughed out loud. She's not, they're just pretending to be engaged. However, I still don't have the chance. His voice gradually became softer, and there was an indescribable sadness in his hazy, drunken eyes. Who asked me to be so useless? I was destined to be a failure from the moment I was born. His birth was not blessed by his family, and his existence would only bring shame to his family. A Yun. Xiao Tianxing put his hand on his shoulder. His expression was serious and serious. If you really love her, try again. Bailey Yun choked back his sobs. What if I fail? If you fail? Xiao Tianxing had a headache. He had never encountered such a tricky problem. He paused and said, if you fail, maybe you should let go. Bai Li Yun leaned on the bar counter, trying his best to suppress his strong surging emotions. He originally wanted to be friends with her and let her slowly fall in love with him, but ever since Beitangshan existed, his image seemed so small. He was afraid that one day she would no longer be able to see him. Think about it. Xiao Tianxing sighed and patted him on the shoulder. When Mika Kito knocked on Xia Dong's door with a bowl of fragrant seafood porridge, she was already asleep. Perhaps because she was too tired, she was in a deep sleep. Mika Kito knocked twice, but no one answered. He turned the doorknob, but it was locked from the inside. He had no choice but to let her sleep on an empty stomach. Xiao Bao and Xiao Guai were sitting in the dining room. On the surface, they were eating at Gigai's, but in fact, they were listening to what was going on over there. When he saw Mika Kito coming back with a bowl, Xiao Bao gritted his teeth and said, "Uncle Shen, you have to make the person who hurt Mom pay the price." Mika Kito patted his head. "I will. Hurry up and eat before it gets cold." Hospital, VIP ward. Bailey Han was lying among a pile of instruments and tubes. His head was wrapped in gauze and his face was pale. His handsome eyebrows were tightly knitted, and his thin lips were tightly pursed, making him look very fragile. Bai Jinxiu sat by his bed, and old Madame Bai was also sitting by the side with Xiao Yi in her arms. The three of them looked worried. Su Yunqian knocked on the door and walked in. She said anxiously, "Grandma Mommy Bai, how is Han?" Old Madame Bai sighed. "He's out of danger, but he hasn't woken up yet." Old Madame Bai still didn't know that Su Yunqian was faking her pregnancy, so her attitude towards her was normal. "How did Han get injured?" Su Yunqian looked distressed. Before old Madame Bai could say anything, Bai Jinxiu snorted coldly. "It's all because of that woman, Xia Dong. She and Xiao Yi were kidnapped, and Han got injured in order to save them." Bai Jinxiu's words were full of disgust for Xia Dong, and he didn't even consider that his words would hurt Xiao Yi. Xiao Yi was already feeling guilty. When she heard this, her small body stiffened, and she couldn't help but clench her fists. Old Madame Bai keenly sensed the change in his emotions, and she hugged him tighter. She said in a deep voice, "Jinxiu, you can't blame Xia Dong and Xiao Yi for this. If you want to blame someone, blame those vicious kidnappers. How dare they target our Bailey family?" Su Yunqian was shocked and angry. She didn't expect that group of idiots would lead Bailey Han to them. She had clearly hinted to them that Mika Kito was Xia Dong's backer. She clenched her fists again and again to suppress the anger in her heart. She revealed a shocked expression. "Xiao Yi was kidnapped too? Is Xiao Yi all right?" She bent down, wanting to touch Xiao Yi's head. The moment her palm landed on the top of his head, Xiao Yi screamed and hit and kicked her. Old Madame Bai repeatedly comforted her. "Don't be agitated, baby. It's okay. Great-grandma is here." Su Yunqian took a few steps back, and her expression was a little ugly. Bai Jinxiu comforted her. "Yunqian, don't mind him. Xiao Yi is just frightened. It's okay, Mommy Bai. It's my fault. I know that Xiao Yi will be more agitated when he sees me, but I still can't help but want to care about him." Su Yunqian forced a smile. Bai Jinxiu sighed, and her elegant brows furrowed slightly. Bailey Han, who was lying on the hospital bed, suddenly moved his lips. Old Madame Bai leaned over excitedly, thinking that he was about to wake up. However, she heard him close his eyes and murmur softly, "Xia Dong." Xia Dong. Su Yunqian's face instantly turned pale. He was unconscious, but he was still thinking about that woman. Old Madame Bai and Bai Jinxiu's expressions also turned ugly. "So, Xiao Yi." He frowned in pain and repeatedly called out their names. It was as if he was being haunted by a nightmare. His fingers were still agitated, but he suddenly clenched them. Xiao Yi struggled to crawl out of old Madame Bai's arms. He moved his body and crawled to Bailey Han's pillow. He reached out his small hand and stroked his cold cheek. He said softly, "Daddy, I'm Xiao Yi. Daddy, please wake up quickly." Old Madame Bai and the others widened their eyes in disbelief. Xiao Yi spoke. Su Yunqian was the most shocked. She began to panic. If Xiao Yi revealed that she had pushed him down the stairs, not only would Han hate her, but the entire Bailey family would never accept her again. Xiao Yi's whispers were really effective. Bailey Han's murmurs gradually disappeared. His fingers were no longer nervously curled but calmly stretched out. However, his brows were still slightly furrowed, as if he was still worried about something. "Daddy, I'm sorry." Xiao Yi lay next to him, his small body close to him. His small head rubbed against his arm. His eyes were glistening with tears, but he held them back and did not let them fall. Old Madame Bai wiped the corners of her eyes, leaned closer, and gently hugged the father and son. Su Yunqian had been feeling uneasy. Fortunately, after Xiao Yi said those 2 words, he did not open his mouth again. Her heart slowly calmed down. At night, Bailey Han still did not wake up. Old Madame Bai wanted to stay and wait for him to wake up. Bailey Xiong by Jinxiu and the others persuaded her in every way possible. Su Yunqian insisted on staying to accompany him, but as the rich miss, there were many things that she did not know how to do, so she hired a senior nurse. After sleeping in the hospital for a night, Su Yunqian's body was sore all over. After giving the nurse a few instructions, she drove home to take a shower and change her clothes. When she returned to the hospital, Old Madame Bai and Xiao Yi had already arrived. Old Madame Bai said pleasantly, "Yunqian, thank you for your hard work last night." The nurse was very sensible. She told Old Madame Bai about how Su Yunqian took care of Bailey Han last night. Su Yunqian smiled faintly. "Grandma, this is what I should do. I just went home to change my clothes and asked the kitchen to make soup for Han. When he wakes up, it will be sent over." Old Madame Bai nodded in satisfaction. "Xiao Yi, good morning." Su Yunqian walked 2 steps away and greeted Xiao Yi with a smile. Xiao Yi stared straight at Bailey Han as if she did not exist. Old Madame Bai said helplessly, "Xiao Yi only said a few words to Han last night. After returning home, he refused to speak again." This explained why he was ignoring her. Su Yunqian knew that Xiao Yi did not tell anyone about her. She was ecstatic. Her eyes moved and she was about to say something when she suddenly heard Old Madame Bai's surprised voice. "Han, you're awake?" Xiao Yi happily pounced on him and hugged his arm, carefully avoiding his wound. Bailey Han's face was very pale. His lips were pale and his eyes were a little dim. His fingers moved slightly and slowly lifted up to land on Xiao Yi's face. He called out in a hoarse voice, "Xiao, Daddy?" Xiao Yi could no longer hold back the tears that she had been holding back for a long time. They fell down and she threw herself into his arms and cried. Welfare Hongcha 866. It doesn't hurt at all. Gigai's blow really works. When he called Xiaobao rubbed his messy hair with a confused look in his eyes. He stuck his little butt out and rummaged around the pillow for a while before he found an exquisite necklace and handed it to Xia Dong without saying a word. "Xiaobao, is this for me?" The sleepiness in Xiaobao's eyes finally disappeared. He nodded heavily and puffed up his little bun face. "Mom, no matter where you go in the future, you have to wear this necklace. This way, even if you go to the ends of the earth, I can find you." He thought about it for most of the night before coming up with this idea. "Hey, it's so magical. You didn't install a global positioning system in the necklace, did you?" Xia Dong smiled and joked. She took the necklace from her son and observed it carefully. It should be platinum. It was low-key and luxurious. The pendant was a green and white cat's eye stone. It looked beautiful and elegant. Almost. "This cat's eye stone is hollow. I put a very small tracker in it. Lower your head. I will put it on for you. If there was another person who was not afraid of death and kidnapped his mother, he would be able to find her location in the first place." Xia Dong lowered her head and asked curiously, "Where did you get this necklace?" Xiaobao chuckled. "I got it from Uncle Shen. Anyway, this was prepared by Uncle Shen and he planned to give it to you, so I modified it a little." His chubby little fingers moved nimbly behind her neck and fastened the necklace. He suddenly leaned over to her injured cheek and kissed it quickly. He turned his face away and looked uncomfortable. "Does it still hurt?" Xia Dong rubbed his hair and smiled. "It was still very painful, but it didn't hurt anymore after you kissed it. So, my precious son, why don't you kiss it again?" "No way." Xiaobao awkwardly escaped from her arms. His little ears were dyed a light pink. The mother and son came out of the bedroom. Mika Kito was carrying breakfast from the kitchen. He saw the necklace on Xia Dong's neck and smiled. Breakfast is ready. Xiao Bao and Xiao Guai, hurry up and wash up. Okay, the two tender voices answered together. They smiled. It felt good to have Mommy and Uncle Shin. After breakfast, Mika Kito went to the office while Xia Dong stayed at home. She was about to call Bailey Yun to ask about Bailey Han's situation when she suddenly received a call from old madam. She was very happy to hear that Bailey Han had woken up. When she heard that Bailey Han wanted to see her, she was stunned. She hesitated for a moment and said, "Old madam, is it inconvenient?" Old madam's tone wasn't very good. "If Han wasn't in a bad condition right now, I wouldn't let you see him. Since I've decided to let you see him, come over." Xia Dong frowned. Anger rose in her heart. She tried hard to suppress it and said calmly, "I understand. I'll be at the hospital in about an hour." Xia Dong changed into a long-sleeved knee-length skirt to cover the scars on her arms and legs. The scars on her body were easy to cover, but the scars on her face were too obvious. She used a curling iron to curl her hair and used all her strength to push her hair forward, covering her slightly red and swollen cheeks. She sent the two children to Yi Siki's place to take care of them and then rushed to the hospital. Su Yunqin was also there. She looked at Xia Dong with an extremely cold gaze. Old madam's face darkened. "Since you're here, go in. You should know what to say and what not to say." Xia Dong didn't want to say anything more. She nodded and pushed open the door of the ward. The sunlight shone in through the window and cast a shadow in the middle of the room. Xia Dong stood quietly in front of Bailey Han's bed. Her heart ached as she looked at his pale face. Bailey Han was also looking at her. Although she tried hard to cover it up, he still saw her injured cheeks. She must also be covered in scars where he couldn't see them. Some of them were even caused by him. She said in a hoarse voice, "I'm sorry. If I hadn't implicated you, you wouldn't have become like this." He closed his eyes and smiled tiredly. "It's not your fault. Come to think of it, he was the one who had implicated her. If he had done a better job back then, the incident with old Imo wouldn't have happened." He waved his hand and she walked closer. He said softly, "Do the injuries on your body still hurt?" He paused for a moment and his face turned slightly pink. "Did I hurt the child in your stomach?" Xia Dong knew what he was referring to. Her face heated up and she looked down uncomfortably. "No, it's okay. The child is fine." He was full of guilt and said softly, "I'm sorry. I almost hurt you." Xia Dong's nose twitched and she burst into tears. "You scared me to death. Do you know that you almost killed yourself?" He smiled. "I didn't want to hurt you." If he hadn't sobered up at the last moment, he really didn't dare to imagine what kind of terrible consequences it would have caused. Xia Dong's heart skipped a beat. She bit her lip and tried to control her emotions. "Thank you." There was a gentle smile in his eyes. She tried to say something happy. Xiaoyi spoke. "When you were unconscious, he hugged you and cried very sadly." He chuckled. "I know. If it wasn't for his cries, I might still be unconscious." His face was pale. It was obvious that he was forcing himself to talk to her. She smiled and said, "Mr. Bailey, have a good rest. I'll come and see you another day." Bailey Han suddenly grabbed her wrist. "Call me Bailey Han." Compared to a polite address, he was more willing to hear her call him by his full name when she was flustered and exasperated. It gave him a familiar sense of closeness. She wanted to struggle, but she was afraid that it would affect his wound, so she could only let him hold her. His dark eyes stared at her, containing many things that she couldn't understand. She compromised. "Bailey Han, let go of me." If old madam and Su Yunqian saw this, she wouldn't be able to explain herself. He slowly let go of her. "I'll leave first. Have a good rest." She walked to the door. Before she opened it, his tired voice suddenly came from behind. "Xia Dong, did we know each other before?" Her outstretched hand froze. With her back facing him, she asked, "Why do you ask?" He was already very tired after talking so much. He took a deep breath and said, "When I was unconscious, I had many dreams. In my dreams, there was you and me. We seemed to be very familiar with each other. The dreams were also very real, as if it had happened before." She dug her fingers into her palms. What did you dream of? I don't remember. He actually only remembered one scene. He was carrying her in his arms as they walked through the forest. It was raining heavily, and she was leaning on his chest like a weak kitten. He could even clearly remember how he felt at that time. The joy of finding something he had lost, the worry, and the love that was so thick that it couldn't be dissolved. She closed her eyes and said lightly, "No, we didn't know each other before. That was the first time we met at the ERC press conference." He said slowly, "I still remember that you approached me several times and said that you needed my help. You even said that you didn't come back to disturb me on purpose. The way you spoke was like an old acquaintance. Come and see." Hongcha 866. Chapter 152. She interrupted him. "That was just a way for me to get close to you. I pretended to be an old acquaintance. Didn't you see through it?" After a moment of silence, he said, "What do you need my help with?" He seemed to have always treated her as a liar and had never asked her these questions. "Nothing. I just wanted to get an advertisement for Glamour magazine. Didn't I successfully sign an advertisement contract with your company?" He shook his head. He didn't believe it. What had happened in the past few months replayed in his mind like a movie. He didn't believe that she got close to him for such a simple purpose. He was even more suspicious of her saying that they didn't know each other in the past. However, he didn't have the energy to confront her now. "I'll leave first." Xiaodong didn't want to say anything more. She opened the door and walked out. Old Madame Dowager and Su Yunqian were sitting in the corridor. When they saw her come out, their eyes fell on her at the same time. Xiaodong nodded at them. "He's tired. I'll leave first." She didn't wait for them to answer and left directly. She was also very tired and didn't want to pretend to be polite to them. Old Madame Dowager and Su Yunqian had different expressions. After a moment of silence, Old Madame Dowager said, "Yunqian, you've been tired all night. Go back and rest first." "No, Grandma. I'm fine. I want to stay and take care of Han. Even if you can bear it, the child in your belly can't. Listen to me and go back to rest." Old Madame Dowager's unintentional words made Su Yunqian's body stiffen and her face turn pale. "What's wrong? Did something happen?" Old Madame Dowager looked concerned. Su Yunqian covered her mouth and sobbed softly. "Grandma, I'm sorry. The child was accidentally lost. Han finally decided to keep the child, but I didn't protect him. I didn't dare to tell you because I was afraid that you'd be angry with me. Han has already ignored me because of this. If you continue to ignore me, then I'll—" She choked with sobs. The old madam did not expect this to happen. She patted her shoulder with heartache. "Don't be sad. You're still young. You can have another child in the future." Although the old madam was heartbroken, she was secretly relieved. Xiao Yi's condition was gradually improving, and she was very sensitive to Yun Qian. If she knew that Yun Qian had a child, she might be agitated. Now that the child was gone, it could be considered a good thing. Su Yunqian wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes with a handkerchief. "Grandma, can I ask you for a favor? If there's anything, just say it. I want to ask you not to tell Mommy Bai and the others about my pregnancy and the loss of my child. Also, don't mention this in front of Han. I don't want him to hate me every time he thinks about this." Su Yunqian's pregnancy, old madam did not tell the rest of the family, mainly because she had not decided whether to keep the child or not. If the whole family knew about it, it would be difficult for her in the future. "Okay, I won't say anything." Han is a stubborn person. It wasn't easy for him to decide to keep the child, but now the child is gone. It's understandable that he's angry. You should understand him. "Grandma, I know. I'll wait for him to forgive me." "Yunqian, you'd better go back and rest first. You just had a miscarriage. You need to take care of your body." "But Han, it's not urgent. Go back quickly." Su Yunqian hesitated for a long time. "Okay, Grandma. I'll go back first. I'll ask the servants to bring the soup in the kitchen." "Okay, go ahead." In the brain surgeon's office, Bailey Xiong said, "Doctor, what's the result of my son's head examination?" The doctor did a head MRI and head CT scan for Bailey Han. He took the examination report and said, "Mr. Bailey, young master's brain injury this time is not serious except for a slight concussion. However, we found a low-density shadow in his left parietal lobe with a vague boundary. There is a substantial shadow in the rest of his brain. It should be an old injury." Bailey Xiong said nervously, "Yes, my son had a car accident 5 years ago and his brain was seriously injured." "What do you mean by shadow? Could it be a tumor?" "It's not a tumor. It may be a remnant of the previous injury." Bailey Xiong was shocked and thought of something. It was very likely that the shadow was that thing. "Mr. Bailey, young master still needs a detailed examination. After the location of the foreign body is clear, we will use the treatment method of surgery to treat it." "Doctor, will the foreign body in my son's brain affect him?" "For the time being, it doesn't affect young master, but it's hard to say because the foreign body is likely to oppress his nerves and have other effects." Bailey Xiong was silent for a while and said, "I need to discuss it with my family before making a decision." The detailed examination results came out. The shadow in Bailey Han's brain was a remnant of the car accident 5 years ago. After the family's discussion, they decided not to perform surgery and let him stay as he was. However, in the eyes of the doctor, it was like a time bomb that could explode at any time and kill him. Since the family did not agree to the surgery, there was nothing they could do. During Bailey Han's hospitalization, Su Yunqian went to the hospital 3 times a day. Unfortunately, he did not take her seriously at all and did not even want to look at her. He was in good health and was discharged from the hospital after 2 days. Except for the pain in his head, his other bodily functions had returned to normal. Xia Dong's injuries were basically healed. She was holding Xiao Guai and teaching her arithmetic when her cell phone rang. It was Bailey Han. "Hello, Mr. Bailey. How are you feeling?" Bailey Han's deep voice came from the other side. "Call me Bailey Han." "Oh." She was a little embarrassed. "Bailey Han, are you feeling better?" "Much better. I'll be discharged today." She smiled. "Then I'm relieved." He seemed to be in a good mood and chuckled. "Are you worried about me?" She couldn't help but grip her cell phone tightly and coughed. "You were injured because of me. Of course I'm worried about you." He paused for a moment and said in a serious tone, "Then how do you plan to repay me for saving your life?" She was silent for a moment. "Are you really Bailey Han? Was he really not Bailey Yun in disguise? What kind of person am I in your heart? Cold on the outside but warm on the inside." He smiled faintly. He was not warm to everyone. Xia Dong hesitated for a moment and asked, "Well, how is Xiao Yi?" That day, he also suffered a lot. Even an adult like her was traumatized by the sight of blood, let alone a child. He rubbed his eyebrows. "I heard from Grandma that he had a nightmare on the first night. He's fine now. What worries me is that he still doesn't want to talk." She bit her lip and comforted him. "Don't worry. Xiao Yi will get better slowly. He just needs some time to overcome his psychological barrier." He was silent for so long that she thought he had hung up the phone. He suddenly said, "On the day you were kidnapped, I suddenly understood what you said. I'm willing to give up my life." Her body stiffened and she had difficulty breathing. Her blood flow was not smooth. Did she hear wrongly? He said that he was willing to give up his life for her and Xiao Yi. She held her cell phone and didn't dare to speak. She tried to convince herself that she was dreaming. He smiled bitterly. "I only dared to admit my feelings for you when I was delirious. Even if you lied to me, I still fell in love with you like a fool." "No, don't say any more. I didn't hear anything. I didn't hear anything." Xia Dong hung up the phone in a panic. She hugged Xiao Guai in a daze. Her heart was beating very fast in her chest. She couldn't help but imagine the scene of him hitting the pillar in the wind. "Mommy, what's wrong?" Xiao Guai shook Xia Dong's arm. Her little face was filled with worry. "Mommy is fine. Gigai, let's continue." Xia Dong tried hard to shake off those wild thoughts. She picked up a book and continued to teach her daughter arithmetic. Bailey Han held his cell phone in silence. He closed his eyes and rubbed his forehead. He must be crazy. He knew it was impossible between them, but he still wanted to tell her his feelings for her. She was Mika Kito's woman. She was Mika Kito's woman. He reminded himself twice. He wanted to throw her to the back of his mind, but her figure became clearer. There was a soft knock on the door. He said, "Come in." Lenny walked in. "Mr. Bailey, are you okay?" Bailey Han extended his hand and gestured for him to sit. "I'm fine now. Dr. Lin, I invited you here to ask you something. Xiao Yi clearly spoke when I was injured, but now he's not saying anything. What's going on?" Lin Yi furrowed his eyebrows. "Can you be more specific? What happened?" Bailey Han crossed his arms and told him everything that happened that day in detail. Of course, he didn't mention Xiaodong's name and that old Mo came for revenge. After that, he told her about how little Wingzi had cried while he was unconscious. Lin Yi thought about it seriously for a few seconds before saying, "I think little Wingzi's autism is almost fully recovered. The reason why he doesn't want to talk now is probably because he feels guilty and doesn't know how to communicate with you. You also said that little Wingzi felt very guilty. He felt that he was the cause of this kidnapping and your injury. Then what should we do? Communicate with him patiently. You have to send a message that you love him very much. The kidnapping has nothing to do with him. It's not his fault that you're injured. Use positive emotions to influence him and let him walk out of his guilt. Also, divert his attention. Don't let him think about it all the time." "I understand. Thank you, Dr. Lin." "You're welcome. Let me know if you need me." Attention, Song Shu 566. Chapter 153. When he sent Linny downstairs, Bailey Han saw Xiao Yi open the door and poke his head out. His eyes flashed as soon as he saw them. He quickly returned to his room and closed the door with a bang. How could he get rid of his psychological barrier? Bailey Han rubbed his eyebrows and thought. Bailey Han told the whole family about Lin Yi's suggestion. They resolutely carried out a series of measures. They never mentioned the kidnapping and took extra care of Xiao Yi. Bailey Han didn't go to the company either. He accompanied him every day. Lu Zihao reported to him on the phone and important documents were sent home for his approval. He and little Wingzi bathed Lil P together. Because the young master had no experience in bathing pets, Lil P became uncomfortable. Lil P shook its fur angrily, causing the two of them to be drenched in water. With their faces full of water droplets, they went upstairs to change their clothes with the same serious expression. The servants who were hiding and peeking all covered their mouths and laughed wildly. They sat cross-legged on the floor and played video games or go together. Bailey Han also taught Xiao Yi how to swim, how to shoot darts, and took him to ride the roller coaster. In short, he would bring little Wingzi along to experience any games that children played. At night, when he was lying in bed, he would take out books such as How to Play with Children and How to Be a Good Father from under his pillow and study them. The results of playing with his son were obvious. His son no longer avoided his gaze and would smile brightly at him. He was no longer like a little old man with a straight face all day. Unfortunately, his son still refused to speak. He had the patience to cure his son, but Lu Zihao couldn't take it anymore. Lu Zihao was about to cry. It had been a whole week. As the CEO of Shenghao Group, he didn't go to the company but stayed at home with his son. There were a lot of rumors in the company and a lot of problems had piled up in various departments. "CEO, please, hurry back to the company." Lu Zihao almost hugged Bailey Han's leg and cried. "I know, I'll go to work tomorrow." Bailey Han knew that it wasn't easy for Lu Zihao to withstand the pressure from the board of directors for so long. Bailey Han thought for a while and called Xiaodong. "Xiaodong, I have to go back to work tomorrow. Can you bring Xiao Bao over to visit Xiao Yi? Is it inconvenient? Madam doesn't seem to want us to contact with Xiao Yi. Besides, he's almost recovered." Xiaodong's head hurt. She had a headache. She wanted to see Xiao Yi, but Madam hated her because of Bailey Han's injury. Would she still allow her to bring Xiao Bao to visit Xiao Yi? Moreover, she didn't dare to see Xiao Yi. Han didn't want to see him again. "I'll take care of Grandma. It's precisely because little Wingzi has already made great progress that I don't want to fail at the last step. With little treasure here, I'm very relieved. His voice was calm and rational, without a trace of selfishness, causing her to gradually lower her guard. Okay then, if you can convince Madam. Wait for my news. This time, it wasn't difficult to convince Madam. She only had one condition. You've neglected Yun Qian for so long. No matter how angry you are, it's time to let it go. If you want me to agree, that's fine. From today onwards, you and Yun Qian will resume contact. You're not allowed to refuse her calls, and you're not allowed to shut her out. Okay, no problem. It was just resuming contact. This was simple. Madam wasn't easy to deal with. Call her right now and invite her over for dinner tonight. Okay. Bailey Han's expression was indifferent. After dialing the number, he calmly said the invitation. Su Yunqian was naturally ecstatic. She thought that Bailey Han was the first to extend an olive branch, which meant that he had forgiven her. Of course, she happily accepted the invitation. Grandma, I've already made the call. When Xia Dong comes over tomorrow, don't give her a hard time. Am I that kind of person? Madam was angry and unconvinced. The banquet seemed normal, but in fact, there was an undercurrent surging. Bailey Han ate quietly and elegantly. Occasionally, he would pick up food for Xiao Yi and ignore the others. Madam, who was sitting opposite him, poked his leg with her walking stick. He received her threatening gaze and picked up Su Yunqian's favorite food. He put it on her plate and smiled. Yunqian, this is your favorite osmanthus fish. Try it. Thank you. Su Yunqian smiled faintly and used her chopsticks to pick up his favorite pork ribs. Before her arm reached his plate, Xiao Yi suddenly slammed her chopsticks on the table. She was shocked and her chopsticks shook. The pork ribs flew into Bailey Han's arms. Everyone's gaze shifted to them. The servant hurried forward and wiped Bailey Han's face. Han, I'm sorry. Her cheeks were burning. She had never lost her composure in front of so many people. It's okay. I'll go upstairs and change. Bailey Han pushed his chair away and stood up. Xiao Yi acted as if nothing had happened. She picked up her chopsticks and ate quietly. Su Yunqian gritted her teeth so hard that they were about to shatter. That damn brat, he must be doing it on purpose. How did old Mo and his group of trash kill him last time? He was like a bomb, constantly reminding her that her weakness was in his hands, and he could destroy her at any time. What did she have to do to shut him up forever? The next day, Xia Dong brought Xiaobao to Bailey's old residence. She had already prepared herself for people to roll their eyes at her, but she didn't expect the butler to be so nice to her. Xiaobao went upstairs and was not as lively as usual. He leaned over to Xiao Yi's ear and chattered nonstop. He silently squatted in front of Xiao Yi and looked her up and down with his clear eyes. Xiao Yi felt uncomfortable under his stare. Xiaobao suddenly said, Bailey Yi, do you know that sometimes I really hate you to death? Xiao Yi's small body stiffened. Sure enough, everyone hated him because of that incident. Xiaobao hit his forehead hard. You're really annoying. You obviously know how to talk, but you don't say it. You make everyone so anxious. Even my mommy cried a few times because of you. That woman cried because of him? It seemed like something she would do. When she was kidnapped, she even took a bullet for him. It wasn't unusual for her to cry because of him. Xiaobao saw that he was in a daze and snorted coldly. Let me tell you, don't think that my mommy is pretending just to get close to your daddy. My mommy doesn't want to get close to him. If it wasn't for Gigai, forget it, I won't say so much to you. Gigai. Xiao Yi suddenly turned her head and stared at Xiaobao. What's wrong with Gigai? Oh, you're finally willing to talk. Xiaobao glared at her angrily. Gigai is my sister. Why are you so concerned about her? Xiao Yi choked on his words. Her round face puffed up and her eyes sparkled. She paused for a few seconds and said, She's my friend. It's natural for me to care about her. Who was the one who poured a drink on Gigai and caused her to fall ill? Xiaobao was very vengeful. He would remember anyone who dared to hurt the people he cared about for the rest of his life. I was wrong at that time. I apologize. Even though Xiao Yi was apologizing, she still looked insufferably arrogant. Can you tell me now what happened to Gigai? Also, why did a drink cause her to fall ill? What's wrong with her? Xiao Yi's eyes had a sharpness that didn't match her age. She caught the information that Xiao Bao had inadvertently revealed in his words. Xiao Bao rolled his eyes and sat across from him. Crossing his short legs, he said, I can tell you, but you have to tell me who your mommy is first. Xiao Yi's expression darkened. I don't know either. She passed away right after I was born. Have you seen her picture? He lowered his head sadly. No, I don't know what she looks like. How did your mommy pass away? Xiao Yi clenched her fists and gritted her teeth. They said that she eloped with someone and got into a car accident, but I don't believe them. I think she's still alive. Xiao Bao didn't know how to comfort him. He patted his little shoulder and changed the question. Bailey, how old are you this year? Xiao Yi stared at him. Why are you asking this? His mind jumped too quickly. Don't worry about it. Just tell me the answer. Xiao Bao had always been brooding over the fact that Bailey Han had abandoned the three of them and had a child with someone else. Therefore, he really wanted to find out who Bailey Han had given birth to Bailey Yi and when he had started to betray his mother. Xiao Yi thought of his condition and answered reluctantly, 4.5 years old. Xiao Bao's pupils shrank. He and Xiao Guai were also 4.5 years old. Bailey Han, that bastard, was actually fooling around with another woman when his mommy was pregnant. He was so angry. He gritted his teeth and asked, Then what's your birthday? The 6th of February. Xiao Bao was petrified. The 6th of February. His and Xiao Guai's birthdays were also on the 6th of February. Boo-hoo, he was going to kill that bastard Bailey Han. No one was going to stop him. Xiao Bao suddenly jumped up from the ground. With a fierce expression, he walked out without a word. Xiao Yi was dumbfounded and called out to him, Hey, where are you going? Xiao Bao turned around and bared his teeth sinisterly. I'm going to kill Bailey Han. Xiao Yi was stunned at first. Then, he held his stomach and laughed heartily. Still not satisfied, he lay on the ground and copied Xiao Bao's old actions. He rolled and laughed like a happy puppy. Xiao Bao's face darkened. He was actually being laughed at by this annoying guy. The corners of his mouth twitched. Stop laughing. Haha. Xiao Yi seemed to want to make up for all the laughter he hadn't used in the past 4 years. He rolled around on the ground happily. Xiao Bao was completely enraged. His eyes were round and round. Fine, keep laughing. Don't think that I'll tell you about Xiao Guai. Xiao Yi stopped laughing and turned around to sit up. He raised his little chin and his eyes were full of disdain. Xia Xiao Bao, you're not a man. You don't keep your word. I despise you. Beauty novel, Song Shu 566. Chapter 154. Xiao Bao raised his eyebrows, a mischievous glint in his black eyes. I'm not a man, I'm a child. This time, it was Xiao Yi's turn to grit his teeth in anger. Xia Xiao Bao, you cheated. All's fair in war. Bailey, I'm sorry. Xiao Yi's eyes widened. He seemed to have thought of something and suddenly curled his lips. It's okay if you don't tell me. I'll find out myself. Take your time. Xiao Bao shrugged nonchalantly. If you have the ability to find out, it'll prove that what I said is true. Xiao Yi snorted. Don't worry. After I find out, I'll tell great-grandmother about it so that she won't have to worry. He could tell that great-grandmother didn't like Xia Dong either. It was as if she was afraid that she would steal Daddy away. Xiao Bao glared at him. You win. So, are you willing to tell me the truth now? Xiao Yi crossed his arms arrogantly. Xiao Bao glared at him fiercely. I can tell you, but you have to swear on your mommy's name that you won't tell anyone about this. If you break your oath, your mommy will never be reincarnated. Xiao Yi said angrily, That's too cruel of an oath. Xiao Bao shrugged. As long as you don't break your oath, everything will be fine. Xiao Yi was conflicted. In the end, his curiosity won out. He gritted his teeth and said, I swear that I won't tell anyone about what you told me. Otherwise, my mommy will never be reincarnated. Okay, you can tell me now. Very good. You have to remember your oath. Xiao Bao patted his shoulder in satisfaction. This is what happened. Xiao Bao only talked about his sister's illness and how his mother had no choice but to give birth to a child with the same blood as Gigai to save Gigai. As smart as Bailey Yi was, he immediately reacted. His eyes widened in disbelief. So, you and Xiao Guai are also daddy's children? That's right. Xiao Bao pouted in disdain. But I won't acknowledge him. He abandoned the three of us and even had you with another woman. He's so despicable. Xiao Yi didn't recover from the huge shock for a long time. He stared blankly at the floor. His daddy actually had 2 children with another woman. Hey, are you stupid? Xiao Bao poked his arm with his finger. You've already sworn that you won't tell anyone. Do you hear me? No, that's impossible. Xiao Yi grabbed his hair angrily. Didn't you say that your daddy is Mika Keto? Xiao Bao rolled his eyes. I was lying to you. If my daddy is Uncle Shun, I have no reason not to take his surname. You're lying to me. You must be lying to me. Xia Xiao Bao, I won't believe you. Xiao Bao sneered. I'm lying to you? What's the benefit of lying to you? Let me tell you, I've never liked you because your mother seduced Bailey Han and made him abandon my mother. No, that's not it. My mother isn't that kind of person. Daddy must know my mother first. Xia Xiao Bao, you're not allowed to speak ill of my mother. Whether you believe it or not, that's what happened. Xiao Bao didn't back down and stared into his eyes. Xiao Yi rushed up angrily and grabbed Xiao Bao's collar. The 2 little guys wrestled with each other. Bailey Yi, I'm warning you. Don't hit my face. Xia Xiao Bao, don't grab my hair. Let go of me. The 2 of them fought for more than 10 minutes before they finally got tired. They grabbed each other's necks and lay on the floor, panting. Bailey, let go. You let go first. Let's let go together. I'll count to 3. Xiao Bao counted to 3, but the 2 sly guys didn't let go. They were still grabbing each other's necks. If you don't let go, I'll suffocate to death. I'll count to 3 again. Okay, Xia Xiao Bao, don't play any more tricks. Xiao Bao's little face was red from suffocation. He counted to 3 again. This time, the 2 of them let go at the same time. They were panting and staring at each other with eyes that said, I can't wait to bite you to death. The 2 little guys were injured. Xiao Bao took a punch to the cheek. Xiao Yi's hair was a mess, and there was a bunch of hair on the floor that had been thrown away. Their clothes were messy and they were in a sorry state. After a few minutes, the 2 of them calmed down. Xiao Yi was still immersed in the huge blow. She gritted her teeth and said, If you and Xiao Guai were daddy's children, wouldn't you want to acknowledge him? Xiao Bao sneered, I won't acknowledge someone who abandoned me. As for Xiao Guai, she doesn't even know who daddy is. She also doesn't know what illness she has. So don't let it slip in the future. Xiao Yi was stunned. After a while, she asked, Is Xiao Guai's illness serious? Xiao Bao's expression became serious. It's serious. It's very serious. Otherwise, my mommy wouldn't have been so desperate to get close to your daddy. Xiao Yi fell silent. She turned her back to Xiao Bao and curled her little body up. She still couldn't accept this. Xiao Bao suddenly felt sorry for her when she saw how lonely she looked. She hesitated for a few seconds, reached out, and patted her on the shoulder. She said softly, Don't worry. Xiao Guai and I won't fight over your daddy. Just pretend you never heard about this. But you have to treat my mommy better in the future. Even if it's because she's been so nice to you, you have to treat her a little better. Xiao Yi hugged his knees tightly and curled himself into a ball. His clear eyes gradually became misty. He bit his lip tightly and held back the tears that were about to come. Bailey, I'm leaving. Don't pretend to be autistic. Hurry up and get better. Don't let your family worry anymore. Xiao Bao got up from the ground and looked down at him like an adult. How did you know I was pretending? Xiao Yi's voice was a little choked up. Xiao Bao rolled her eyes. Did you forget that I worked with you and asked you to pretend to be sick? Who knew that you were such a genius that you pretended to be autistic? Although you pretended to be autistic, I knew you had an ulterior motive. So, I observed you and found a small loophole. What loophole? It's because you treated me differently. Speaking of this, Xiao Bao became angry. The last time I brought Gigai to see you, you gave Gigai the pastry she liked, but you gave me the peanut butter that I hate. You must have done it on purpose. Which autistic child would be so scheming? Xiao Yi was silent. He was right. I did do it on purpose. Xiao Bao walked to the door and suddenly heard Xiao Yi's muffled voice from behind. Why is your mommy so nice to me? Xiao Bao blinked his large eyes. My mommy is kind. My mommy said that you are a child without a mommy. Although you have a bad temper, you are actually very pitiful. You yearn for a mother's love and friends, so she treats you very well. He snorted. She treats you so well that even I, her biological son, am jealous. Xiao Bao spoke casually, but Xiao Yi listened attentively. His body stiffened and his heart started to beat wildly. A bold idea popped into his mind. He was so excited that his voice trembled. Xia Xiao Bao, is it possible that she is actually my mommy too? Xiao Bao's delicate eyebrows shot up. He widened his eyes and said angrily, What do you mean? Are you trying to steal my mommy? Roar, this damn annoying person. Did he eat a leopard's guts? Little Wingzi abruptly sat up, his eyes flashing with fanaticism. How old are you? When is your birthday? Xiao Bao's eyes narrowed. Same as you. 4.5 years old. My birthday is on the 6th of February. Xiao Yi suddenly rushed over and placed both hands on his shoulders. Isn't it obvious? We were both born on the same day. She cares about me and even took a bullet for me. If she isn't my mommy, why would she do that? What did you say? My mommy took a bullet for you? Xiao Bao was shocked. His eyes widened in disbelief. No, that's impossible, Xiao Yi nodded vigorously. When we were kidnapped, she stopped the kidnappers from hurting me many times. Also, I keep feeling that there's something wrong with the way she looks at me. It's like she's very sad. No, I don't believe it. Xiao Bao had always believed that Bailey Han abandoned his mommy and had Bailey Yi with another woman. Now that the plot had been reversed, it was destroying his belief. Xiao Bao violently pushed Xiao Yi away. It was as if he was being chased by a ferocious beast. He ran out of his room in a panic. Xiao Yi stared blankly at the empty doorway. After the shock and excitement, it was followed by endless pain. His little face was filled with grief. If she really was his mommy, why would she abandon him? Xiao Bao, what's wrong? Xia Dong suddenly stood up from the sofa. She looked in shock at Xiao Bao, who was running down the stairs. His handsome little face was covered in tears. Xiao Bao threw himself at her. She quickly bent down and picked him up. Baby, what's wrong? Are you feeling unwell? Quick, tell mommy. Xiao Bao looked at her anxious expression and burst into tears. She had never seen him cry so sadly. Her heart ached as well. She stroked his weak back to comfort him. Baby, it's okay. It's okay. Mommy is here. Mommy will take you home. She lovingly kissed her son's forehead. Ignoring the servant's curious gazes, she smiled apologetically at the butler. I'm sorry. Baby isn't feeling well. I'll take him home first. The butler thought that Xiao Bao had an argument with his young master. He bowed politely. Miss Xia, young Master Qi, please take care. Xia Dong carried her son and left. She didn't know that Xiao Yi was standing at the top of the stairs, looking at their backs with an expressionless face. Xiao Bao curled up in her arms. He was crying so hard that his tears soaked her clothes. She placed him in the front passenger seat. She pulled out a tissue and gently wiped the tears from his face. She said gently, Baby, tell mommy what happened. Xiao Bao gradually stopped crying. He raised his little face. His large eyes were still filled with tears. Mommy, is Xiao Yi also your child? Add Hongcha 866. Chapter 155. Xiao Bao gradually stopped sobbing. He lifted his little face, and his big eyes were still filled with tears. Mommy, is Xiao Yi your child too? Xia Dong's breathing instantly stopped. Her beautiful eyes were instantly filled with shock. She fiercely pinched her palm before she found her voice again. Xiao Bao, Why would you have such a strange thought? Then why did you take the bullet for him? Xiao Bao's face was filled with grief and indignation. Xia Dong pursed her lips and tried to calm herself down. He's a child, and mommy is an adult. It's normal for adults to protect children. Is that really the case? His dark eyes stared straight at her as if he wanted to look into the depths of her heart. Of course. Why would mommy lie to you? Xia Dong laughed dryly and patted his head. Don't let your imagination run wild. Let's go home. She started the car and looked straight ahead. She focused on driving as if nothing had happened. Xiao Bao's heart was filled with suspicion. He was not a 3-year-old child who could be fooled so easily. He had caught his mommy's flash of panic just now. He would definitely find out the truth. It was midsummer, and the weather could change at any moment. It was a poisonous day when they left the old Bailey mansion. They had just reached the foot of the mountain when it suddenly started raining heavily. The rain splashed against the car window. Xia Dong slowed down the car and glanced sideways at Xiao Bao, who was staring out the window in a daze. Baby, did Xiaoyi speak today? Xiao Bao had already begun to suspect that his mommy was also Bailey Yi's mommy. When he heard that she was concerned about him, the suspicion in his heart intensified. He was very upset and said angrily, "She did." It's a good thing that she spoke. Xia Dong smiled, but then she thought about how Xiao Bao ran down the stairs crying. Could it be that even Xiao Yi knew? Worry surfaced in her heart again. Her phone suddenly rang. It was a call from Mika Kito. "Hello, Brother Shin." Mika Kito stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling window in the office and looked at the pouring rain outside. Her expression was a little heavy. "Are you home now? It's raining heavily outside." "Not yet. We just reached the foot of the mountain in the villa area." "Brother Shin, is something the matter?" Xia Dong noticed that his tone was a little heavy. Mika Kito rubbed her eyebrows. "Something happened in Japan. I need to go back to deal with it." Xia Dong frowned. "What's going on? Is it serious?" Sumiyoshi-kai and Inagawa-kai have recently stolen a lot of Yamaguchi-gumi's business. I heard that Inagawa-kai has also smuggled a large number of drugs from Vietnam. They want to invade Yamaguchi-gumi's sphere of influence. The Sumiyoshi-kai and the Inagawa-kai were the two major Japanese gangs, second only to the Yamaguchi-gumi. The three gangs were harmonious on the surface, but in fact, there were undercurrents and constant struggles. They must have known that the leader of Yamaguchi-gumi was not in the Japanese headquarters, so they took the opportunity to seize territory. Mika Kito felt that drugs were too harmful, so she hated them very much. In her sphere of influence, the sale of drugs was prohibited. Mika Kito was aiming at this fat piece of meat and wanted to introduce drugs to her. Xia Dong quickly understood the seriousness of the matter and said, "Brother Shin, have you booked the plane tickets? When do you plan to go back?" "I'll rush back tonight. I'll ask Lu Xing to stay and protect you." Mika Kito had already asked Jiang Dao to pack his luggage and leave it in the office. After he settled the company's matters, he would take a plane back to Japan. "Hey, Brother Shin, you have to take care of yourself. Don't let yourself get hurt, okay?" Mika Kito smiled, and her eyes were filled with tenderness. "I know. You have to take care of yourself too. Take good care of the children and wait for me to come back." "I know." Xia Dong listened to him say a few more words and handed the earpiece to Xiao Bao. "Baby, Uncle Shin has something to say to you." "Uncle Shin, are you going back to Japan?" Xiao Bao put on the earpiece, puffed up his cheeks and said, "When will you come back?" "Half a month at least, and a month at most. I'll be back as soon as possible." Mika Kito said softly, "Xiao Bao, you're already a man. You have to listen to mommy and take good care of Gigai, okay? But I'll also look after mom and not let her run around, lest she gets into trouble again." His voice was young, but his expression was serious. He looked like a little old man. The corners of Beitang Shin's lips curled up. He was half joking and half serious. "If other men approach her, remember to chase them away." Xiao Bao nodded seriously. "Yes, that's right." Before Mika Kito left, she had already arranged everything. She was worried that Xia Dong would tire herself out, so she specially hired a nanny. In addition to Lu Xing, who was ordered to protect her, there was also a female bodyguard named Suzaku who rushed over from Japan to protect them. Suzaku arrived in China the next morning. She was very beautiful, charming, and gorgeous, but it was a pity that she had a cold expression on her face, as if someone owed her a lot of money. Xia Dong joked in Japanese, "Suzaku, I just found out that Yamaguchi-gumi has such a beautiful bodyguard like you." Suzaku replied in Chinese, "Strictly speaking, I'm not a member of Yamaguchi-gumi. I just signed an agreement with Mika Kito and worked for him." Xia Dong nodded in understanding. Suddenly, her eyes narrowed. "You're from China?" "Yes." Suzaku was a woman of few words. "Miss Xia, if there's nothing else, I'll go out first." "Okay, thank you for your hard work. I'll prepare a room for you." Xia Dong lived in a 3-bedroom apartment. She planned to let Xiao Guai sleep with her and leave Xiao Guai's room for Suzaku. As for Lu Xing, she would let him do whatever he wanted after work. Xia Dong had been unkind for a long time. "No, I have a house in a city." Suzaku had a villa in a city before she was sent to Japan by Mika Kito. It was obvious that being a killer was a high-risk, high-income profession. The rain didn't stop until evening. Bailey Han drove back to the old house. Immediately, a servant was waiting for him at the gate with an umbrella. As soon as he opened the car door, the servant held the umbrella and said with a smile, "Young master, you're finally back. Little master is speaking." A look of surprise flashed across Bailey Han's eyes. He quickened his pace and walked to the living room. As soon as he reached the door of the living room, he heard the old lady's laughter and Xiao Yi's clear and tender voice. He seemed to be telling a joke, which made the old lady laugh. Bailey Xiong and Bai Jingxiu were also sitting in the living room with smiles on their faces. The servant took off his wet coat and hung it on the floor hanger. Bai Jingxiu smiled and said, "Han, you're back at the right time. Come and listen to Xiao Yi's joke." It made the old lady very happy. "That's right. Come and listen too." The old lady wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes. No one could tell if they were tears of laughter or tears of joy. "Daddy, you're back." Xiao Yi stood up from the sofa and greeted him Gigai. Bailey Han patted his head, picked him up, and put him on his lap. "What joke is Xiao Yi telling? Tell it to Daddy too." "Okay." His beautiful eyes curved. "But Daddy, I have a condition. If I can make you laugh, you have to promise me one thing. You've learned to negotiate with Daddy?" Bailey Han's eyes were smiling. His cold and handsome face seemed to soften a lot. He ruffled his hair. "Let's hear it." He pursed his lips, and his dark eyes were filled with anticipation. "Daddy, I want to thank Chief Editor Xia in person. I know that she took good care of me when I was sick." The old lady's expression changed. She wanted to say something, but in the end, she held back. Bailey Xiong and his wife's expressions were also a little ugly. Bailey Han's lips curved. "You should thank her, but I can only make a decision after I hear your joke." Little Wingsy's eyebrows also curved as he began to tell a lively joke. The joke itself was not very funny, but when paired with his rich facial expressions, it seemed particularly funny. Bailey Han looked at his little face brimming with smiles. That pair of eyes that were as bright as the stars made him smile from the bottom of his heart. He realized that after his son fell ill, he had become a little different. His expression had become richer, and he smiled more often. He enjoyed the change in his son. Before going to bed, Bailey Han went to Xiao Yi's room. He was already asleep. His small body lay on the bed and only took up a small space. He didn't seem to be sleeping very well, and his brows were slightly furrowed. Bailey Han reached out and smoothed out the wrinkles between his brows. He gently stroked his cheek. Just as he retracted his hand and stood up, he suddenly heard Xiao Yi's sleep-talking voice. "Mommy, don't go, don't abandon me." Bailey Han's breath stopped. When he came out of his son's room, he was in a terrible mood. He remembered that 4.5 years ago, the old madam had brought little Wingsy to him and told him that he had a child with a woman. At that time, he had been shocked and at a loss. He tried hard to recall what the woman who had given birth to his child looked like, but he could not recall. When Xiao Yi was 2 years old, he asked him where his mommy was. He couldn't answer, so he could only tell Xiao Yi the answer that the old lady told him. He said that his mommy was already dead. Xiao Yi didn't believe him. He said that his mommy wasn't dead. She just went somewhere far away. He even cried and asked him for his mommy. He was so angry that he hit Xiao Yi for the first time. Bailey Han didn't expect that Xiao Yi still didn't want to believe that his mommy was already dead. Sitting on the deck chair on the balcony, he was exposed to the night sky that had been washed by the rain. The cool air seeped into his heart, and his irritated mood gradually calmed down. However, he couldn't help but think of someone. His finger repeatedly scrolled through the contact list on his phone. He was hesitant. What was she doing at this time? Was she with Mika Kido? Bailey Han rubbed his brows. He persuaded himself that he called her for business. He just wanted to tell her that Xiao Yi wanted to see her. Hello, Bailey Han? Her voice was very soft and comfortable to listen to. Ad, Shinwu 799. Chapter 156. He paused. Xia Dong, Xiao Yi is willing to talk. She smiled happily. Congratulations. He smiled. I'm very grateful for everything you've done. Xiao Yi is also very grateful. He wants to thank you in person. When are you free? I'd like to treat you to a meal. Well, Xia Dong glanced at the little guys who were playing games on the sofa. It's okay. We didn't do anything. His voice was low. Don't misunderstand. I don't mean anything else. If Mr. Beitang is willing to come, I'd be honored. Xia Dong knew that he had misunderstood. She quickly said, No, Brother Shen went to Japan. He won't have any objections. I just don't think there's a need. She slapped her forehead gloomily. Xiao Bao was already suspicious. Maybe Xiao Yi was also suspicious. She just wanted to fade out of Xiao Yi's sight temporarily. I insist. Xia Dong, don't reject me. He was like a supreme king announcing his decision. I'll pick you and the children up at 6:00 tomorrow night. But beep beep. The call ended. Xia Dong held her forehead helplessly. He was too domineering. She hadn't even finished speaking. Bailey Han knew that old madam didn't like Xia Dong, so he specially arranged for the banquet to be held in his villa to avoid awkwardness for Xia Dong. Although he and Xiao Yi hadn't returned to the villa for a long time, the servants still cleaned the place every day. It was spotless. When they returned, they didn't feel uncomfortable at all. According to his instructions, the butler added a rocking chair, hanging basket, seesaw, and other children's play facilities in the garden. In just one afternoon, the butler led the servants to decorate the villa's outdoor balcony into a Caribbean-style banquet venue. Under the blue sky and white clouds, the golden sunset covered the entire open-air balcony with a layer of faint radiance. Tall palm trees, coconut trees, and date trees exuded the unique fragrance of trees and fruits. Under the parasols, there were a few white reclining chairs placed side by side. The ground was covered with a layer of fine and soft white sand, which was said to be specially transported from overseas beaches. Not far away, there was a barbecue rack. A foreign chef in a chef's uniform had already started barbecuing the meat. The fresh meat sizzled on the barbecue rack, and the aroma of the meat permeated the air. A violinist stood by the railing, his back facing the setting sun as he played a melodious tune. Bailey Han was wearing a white tuxedo, and Xiao Yi was also wearing a white suit. When the father and son stood together, they looked exactly the same and were both extraordinarily handsome. Everything was so charming. The moment Xia Dong and the children stepped onto the balcony, they were immediately mesmerized. Xiao Guai's little face was red with excitement. He covered his face and screamed, "It's so beautiful! Mommy, it's exactly like the beach." Xiaobao didn't say anything, but from his sparkling eyes, it was obvious that he liked it. Xia Dong smiled faintly. "It's very beautiful. We like it very much." She was wearing a bohemian-style long dress. It was sleeveless and cinched at the waist, and the hem of the dress flowed elegantly. It was extremely compatible with the sunny beach. A gentle breeze blew and lifted her long hair. She raised her chin slightly, feeling the comfort of the breeze. Her side profile looked tranquil and beautiful under the sunlight. She smiled. "Bailey Han, I also brought a guest over. I hope you don't mind. The guest Xia Dong was talking about was Suzaku, who was standing behind her. She didn't want to let Suzaku follow them, but she insisted. She said that it was Mika Kito's orders. She had to follow them when they went out, even when they went to buy groceries. Bailey Han raised his eyebrows in surprise. Suzaku? I didn't expect you to work for Mika Kito now. Suzaku was expressionless. I admit defeat. Bailey Han's thin lips curved. Your master ordered you to follow Xia Dong at all times, including when she goes on dates? Suzaku glanced at him indifferently. Mika Kito is worried that someone has kidnapped Miss Xia. Xia Dong wiped her sweat and quickly smiled. Suzaku, since you're here, don't just stand there. Do whatever you like. I think Mr. Bailey won't mind, okay? She looked at Bailey Han for help. Bailey Han shrugged. Of course he won't mind. Miss Suzaku, please make yourself at home. The last golden ray of the setting sun slid past the horizon. They were either lying or sitting on the beach, enjoying the delicious food and listening to the melodious music. It was as if they could hear the sound of the waves. The cool breeze blew gently and it was extremely comfortable. Bailey Han held orange juice in one hand and red wine in the other. He sat on the recliner beside her and handed her the orange juice. There was a gentle smile on his face. Let me toast to you. Thank you for taking care of Xiao Yi these days. You can't drink alcohol, so orange juice can replace it. I didn't do anything. You don't have to be so polite. Xia Dong clinked her glass with his and smiled as she took a sip of the orange juice in her glass. Bailey Han tilted his head and looked at the three little rascals playing in the rocking chairs in the distance. He chuckled and said, They are getting along very well now. I'm very happy that they have become friends. There is a kind of friend that is called, no discord, no concord. Xiao Yi and Xiao Bao are like that. Xia Dong looked at them laughing and her heart softened. Her eyes were as bright as the stars and there was a charming smile on her face. Bailey Han's gaze fell on her. She was very beautiful when she smiled. Her eyes were curved like beautiful crescent moons. Her eyes were clean and clear without any impurities. Her happiness seemed to be very simple. As long as the children were happy, she would be happy too. She was very rational when she was working, but sometimes she would be silly when facing him. He couldn't help but want to get closer to her. Xia Dong received his passionate gaze. She touched her hair uncomfortably and smiled. I'm going to see the children. She put down her glass and got up to leave. He suddenly grabbed her wrist. Her body stiffened and she didn't dare to look back. His voice was low and hoarse. Xia Dong, who is the father of the children? Is it Mika Kito? Xia Dong lowered her head. Is the answer very important? It's very important to me. If it was Mika Kito, then he had no chance at all. He waited for her verdict. His heart was thumping. She closed her eyes and said slowly, No. His throat bobbed. Then who is it? He's no longer around. He tightened his grip on her wrist and pulled her into a warm embrace. Suzaku, who was sitting at the side quietly eating barbecued meat, put down her plate and stood up vigilantly. Her sharp eyes stared at Bailey Han. If he did anything out of line, she would not hesitate to take action. Bailey Han ignored her and said in a low voice, Who is the father of the children you're carrying now? Xia Dong smiled. This time, it's Mika Kito. No, I don't believe it. He pinched her chin and forced her to look into his eyes. His eyes were dark and deep, just like the sky before a storm. He lowered his voice with a hint of anticipation. We've done it twice in total. I didn't use any protection on both occasions. She interrupted him. No, it's not yours. The blood drained from his face. All his fantasies were shattered. She laughed self-deprecatingly. That's right. What you're seeing now is the real me. I'm a promiscuous woman who's two-timing. You can use any word you like. Stop talking. He suddenly covered her mouth. There was a cold anger in his eyes. I'm too stupid. This matter ends here. He used so much strength that it hurt her face. However, she did not make a sound or struggle. She only looked at him quietly. Her pair of clear and bright eyes were devoid of sorrow, joy, anger, and displeasure. His heart was filled with grief and indignation. Why did he still have hope? Why did he end up humiliating himself? Suzuka said coldly, "Bailey Han, let go of Miss Xia. You're not allowed to bully my mommy. Let go of her." Xiao Bao realized that there was something wrong with the adults here. She jumped down from the rocking chair and rushed over without thinking. She kicked Bailey Han's long legs fiercely. Bailey Han slowly released his hand. His face was dark as he left the balcony without a word. He was in a terrible mood and needed to be alone to get some fresh air. With the crisis resolved, Suzuka sat down and continued to enjoy the food and wine. "Mom, are you all right?" Xiao Bao nudged Xia Dong, who was frozen on the spot, worriedly. "I'm fine." Xia Dong revealed a smile and sat down on the rocking chair. Xiao Yi also ran over and pointed at the fruit platter on the table. Chief Editor Xia, the servants just delivered these fruits. What do you like to eat? I'll get it for you. He looked so cute in his white suit. Xia Dong couldn't help but pat his head. She smiled and said, "Thank you, Xiao Yi, but there's no need. I'm already full." "Brother, come over quickly. There's a little bug on the rocking chair. I don't dare to get down." Xiao Bao and Xiao Yi both ran away, leaving Xiao Guai alone on the rocking chair. She cried out pitifully, "Gigai, don't be afraid. I'll be right there." Xiao Bao ran away quickly. Xia Dong stood up and wanted to follow, but Xiao Yi suddenly grabbed her finger. There was a sweet smile on her little face. "Chief Editor Xia, I see a strand of white hair on your head. Can I pluck it out for you?" "Ah? What hair?" Xia Dong was shocked. Was she that old? "Yes, Auntie. You're a little shorter. I'll pluck it out for you." Xia Dong glanced at the rocking chair. Xiao Bao should have already removed the bug. Xiao Guai jumped down from the rocking chair. The siblings walked over hand in hand. "Okay. Then I'll have to trouble you." Xia Dong squatted down and lowered her head. She felt a pair of small hands caress her hair. Then she felt a sudden pain. "Are you done?" she asked. "Yes, I'm done." Xiao Yi quickly plucked it out and put it in his pocket. She looked up. "Xiao Yi, let me see." Xiao Yi had already taken out a strand of white hair from his other pocket. He handed it to her. Actually, he picked it up from his great-grandmother's room. Attention, Hongcha 866. Chapter 157. My hair is really white. Am I really that old? Xia Dong was very sad. She was clearly not even 30 years old yet. Sob. "Mommy, why are you squatting on the ground?" Xiao Bao walked over with Xiao Guai and asked curiously. "Bao Bao, Gigai, Mommy's hair is already white. If Mommy becomes an old woman, will you still love Mommy?" Xia Dong hugged her children sadly and rubbed against them. Xiao Bao's face turned green. "Mom, it's normal to have white hair. Look at the young man's white hair. He's still a teenager and he already has white hair. It's your fault for overusing your brain. When we go back, I'll research a diet to nourish you. I'm sure you'll be rejuvenated." "Oh, that's true. But you haven't answered my question. When I become an old woman, will you despise me? Will you be like those unfilial children in the news and chase old grandpas and grandpas out of the house?" Xia Dong seized the opportunity to instill the traditional virtues of filial piety. Xiao Bao rolled his eyes. "Mom, I told you it's not good to watch too much TV. Look at you. You're still young and you're already suffering from paranoia. How scary." Xiao Guai's soft body wriggled in Xia Dong's arms. "Mommy, don't worry. Even if you become an old woman, my brother and I won't despise you." Xia Dong was so happy that her eyes turned into crescents. Xiao Yi was almost petrified. Was this childlike woman really Xia Xiaobao and Xiao Guai's mommy? And could she really be their mommy? He couldn't help but touch the hair hidden in his pocket. It would only take a week for the paternity test results to come out and he would know the answer. Bailey Han went downstairs to the living room. He leaned on the sofa and rubbed his brows. Suddenly, the landline beside him rang. As soon as he picked up the call, old Madame Gu's unhappy voice came through. "Ahan, you're in such a hurry to move back to the villa with Xiao Yi because you want to invite Xia Dong to a banquet, right?" Grandma, Xia Dong has helped us a lot. You also agreed to let Xiao Yi thank her in person. Madame Dowager said angrily. I agreed, but I meant to invite her to the old mansion and make it clear in front of the whole family. Now you've secretly invited her to your house. If Yunqian finds out, what will she think? Bailey Han pressed his throbbing veins. Grandma, I've already broken up with Yunqian. No matter what I do in the future, I don't have to care about what she thinks. Break up? When did this happen? The old madam was shocked and angry. It's been more than half a month. The sound of something breaking came from the other end of the phone. Old madam was so angry that she was trembling all over. Bailey Han, you've grown up and I can't control you anymore, right? Why are you only telling me such an important thing now? Bailey Han held his forehead. Grandma, don't be so agitated. I just think that this is between me and her. There's no need for you to worry about it. Is this between the two of you? This is between the Bailey family and the Su family. Bailey Han, go back to the old mansion immediately and make things clear. Bailey Han lowered his voice. Grandma, I still have guests now. I'll go back early tomorrow morning, okay? No. You have to come back now. The more she thought about it, the angrier she became. It's because of Xia Dong that you've become like this. I'm telling you, you're not allowed to have any contact with her in the future. Come back quickly. Grandma, Bailey Han still wanted to persuade her, but Madame Dowager clutched her chest and cried out in pain. Bailey Han, you unfilial grandson. Are you trying to anger me to death? Ouch, my chest hurts so much. Bailey Han had a headache. Okay, I got it. Grandma, don't hurt anymore. I'll go back as soon as possible. Madame Dowager was the absolute leader in the family. No one dared to disobey her, including Bailey Han, who was very filial to her. Bailey Han returned to the balcony. Xia Dong was playing games with the children. When she saw him, she got up and said goodbye. It's getting late. I should go back. He nodded. I'll send you down. Watching the BMW disappear into the night, Bailey Han squatted down and patted Xiao Yi's head. Xiao Yi, I'm going to the old mansion to visit great-grandma. Go to bed early. Daddy, I want to go with you. I miss great-grandma and grandma too. Xiao Yi saw that his expression was serious. She had a premonition that something was going to happen, so she wanted to go with him. Bailey Han knew that a storm was coming for him. He didn't want his son to be affected. Xiao Yi, Daddy has something to deal with when he goes back. Gigai, stay at home. I'll take you back tomorrow, okay? Xiao Yi and Gigai nodded. After Bailey Han left, Xiao Yi ran into the living room to check the caller ID on the landline. She asked the butler, Grandpa Butler, did my great-grandma call just now? Otherwise, Daddy wouldn't have suddenly suggested going back to the old mansion. They had just moved back from the old mansion this morning. Yes, little master. What did they talk about? Xiao Yi's big eyes were filled with eagerness and anticipation. Grandpa Butler, you were in the living room just now. You must have heard it, right? This. The butler wiped the sweat from his forehead. He couldn't speak carelessly. Grandpa Butler, just tell me, okay? Xiao Yi suddenly hugged the butler's leg. She raised her little face and looked at him with a pair of big eyes. She imitated Xiao Bao's cute expression perfectly. Little master. The butler was in tears. Who could tell him why the usually mature and calm little master suddenly became a cute little cutie? In the end, the old butler, who liked children, couldn't resist Xiao Yi's cute tactics. He wiped his sweat and said, Old Madam and Elder Master were talking about Miss Su. It seems that Elder Master and Miss Su broke up. The old butler didn't dare to say anything else. What welcomed Bailey Han was a storm. As soon as he stepped into the living room of the old mansion, he felt the suffocating pressure in the living room. The whole family stared at him with dark faces. Old Madam stabbed the floor with her walking stick. Tell me, why did you break up with Yunqian? We're not compatible. After all, Su Yunqian was the woman he had loved for many years. Even if she had made a mistake, he didn't want his family to hate her, so he didn't tell them the real reason. Not compatible? Bai Jinxiu couldn't help but raise her voice. You've been together for 6 years. You betrayed her back then and had Xiao Yi with another woman. Not only did she not break up with you, but she also magnanimously helped you get back on your feet. Don't you remember? Now you want to break up with her because of a simple, "we're not compatible"? How can you face her? Bailey Han's eyes darkened. A few years ago, he had a car accident. Not only did he lose his memory, but his legs were also seriously injured. He almost couldn't stand up. It was Yun Qian who accompanied him for 6 months of rehabilitation before he could stand up again. In the bottom of his heart, he was full of gratitude and trust for her. It was because of his deep love that he blamed her. When he found out that his perfect lover had become a woman full of lies and unscrupulous in order to achieve her goals, his heart hurt more than anyone else. He was silent. Bailey Xiong was furious. He slammed the table and scolded sternly, "How can you face the Su family by doing this? What will outsiders think of the Bailey family?" Bailey Han's heart sank. He stared sharply at his father. "Others can blame me, but you don't have the right to do so. The one who humiliated the Bailey family is not me, Bailey Han, but you." Back then, who didn't know that the young master of the Bailey family had a mistress outside and even brought his illegitimate child home? Even now, Lu Xiaoxiao was still living in the villa he bought for her. You unfilial son." Bailey Xiong was so angry that his blood pressure rose. He pointed at him with a trembling finger. "I'm telling you, as long as I'm alive, you must marry Yun Qian." "Impossible." Bailey Han spat out these 3 words coldly. The elders were so angry that they were about to vomit blood. The old madam tried to suppress her anger. She raised her hand to stop Bailey Xiong from continuing. Her eyes were as sharp as knives. She stared at Bailey Han. Tell me honestly, did you break up with Yun Qian because of Xiaodong?" "No, this has nothing to do with her," Bailey Han said calmly. "Grandma, she's an outsider. Don't drag her into this." The old madam sneered. "An outsider? Hun, I watched you grow up. You can't hide from my eyes. I know how special you are to her. I'll make it clear today. Even if you break up with Yun Qian, don't even think about marrying Xiaodong. As long as I'm alive, don't even think about it." Bailey Han's face darkened. He wanted to ask why everyone in the family hated Xiaodong so much, but he held back. If he brought the topic to Xiaodong now, it would only bring her trouble. He insisted on breaking up with Su Yunqian. It had nothing to do with outsiders. The old madam said coldly, "Don't give me perfunctory words like unsuitable. Tell me honestly, why did you break up with Yun Qian?" Bailey Han frowned. "Grandma, I've already made it very clear. If you don't have anything else to say, I'll go back first. Xiao Yi is still waiting for me at home. Don't you dare leave." The old madam stood up angrily, picked up the walking stick and hit him. "I'll kill you, you heartless thing. Yun Qian has been with you for so many years. Even if she didn't make any contributions, she still worked hard. How can you be so heartless?" Bailey Han nimbly avoided her attack. He was extremely irritated. He didn't expect to face such a big resistance when breaking up with Su Yunqian. The old madam missed every hit. Instead, she was so tired that she panted. She covered her chest and cried out in pain, "Ouch, my chest hurts." "Mom, don't be agitated. Sit down." Bailey Xiong hurriedly supported her. Bai Jinxiu asked the servant to bring the medicine and helped the old madam take it. Bailey Han saw that she didn't seem to be pretending and became anxious. He quickly went forward and rubbed her back. "Grandma, how are you? Do you feel better?" Welfare, Xinwu 799. Chapter 158. The old madam took a deep breath and slapped him on the arm. Tears streamed down her face. "You brat, why are you always so worrisome? I thought that you would be more mature now that you're a father, but you still did something so infuriating." "Grandma, don't be agitated. Be careful not to hurt your body. If you're angry, take it out on me. I'm thick-skinned, so I'm not afraid of being hit." Bailey Han caressed her back and coaxed her. The old madam huffed. "What's the point of hitting you? If you really want to appease my anger, apologize to Yun Qian and reconcile with her quickly." Great-grandma, grandpa, grandma, daddy? No one noticed that Xiao Yi had suddenly appeared at the door of the living room. Baby Yi, why are you here? The old madam quickly waved her hand. Xiao Yi walked in front of her and looked up pitifully. Great-grandma, don't blame my daddy. Baby, great-grandma isn't blaming your daddy. I'm just discussing something with him. The old madam carried him onto her lap and stroked his head. How did you get here? I asked the chauffeur uncle to send me here. Great-grandma, I suddenly thought of something, so I came over. You won't blame me, right? Xiao Yi leaned his head into her arms and said crisply. Oh, you mischievous boy. How dare you come out of the house alone? Aren't you worried that great-grandma will blame you? Now you know how to worry. Her beloved great-grandson was acting coquettishly in the old madam's arms. Her anger subsided a lot. She pinched his soft cheeks and said, What did you think of that made you come over? Xiao Yi looked at the old madam innocently with his big eyes. His little face puffed up slightly, making him look very lovable. I was thinking about how I rolled down the stairs that night. The old madam was shocked. What happened? Xiao Yi paused and said, I accidentally heard Auntie Yun Qian talking to someone on the phone. The other party seemed to be called Godfather. That night I went up the stairs with Auntie Yun Qian, and I asked her who Godfather was. Auntie Yun Qian seemed to be in a panic. She told me not to talk nonsense. I lied to her. I said I knew who the Godfather was, and she pushed me down the stairs. Xiao Yi's face was full of fear, and her small body trembled. She hugged the old madam's waist in fear. Great-grandmother, I'm so scared, the old madam was shocked. She hugged him tightly and patted his back. Xiao Yi, did you make a mistake? Why would Yun Qian push you down the stairs? Xiao Yi suddenly raised her head. Her bright eyes were filled with tears and her face was full of fear. Great-grandma, I didn't make a mistake. I didn't lie. She really pushed me down the stairs. No, how could this be? How could this be? The old madam couldn't believe it. Yun Qian had always been good to Xiao Yi. How could she do such a thing? If someone else said it, she definitely wouldn't believe it. But Xiao Yi never lied. Bailey Han's feelings were very complicated. He had always wanted to find out the truth about Xiao Yi falling down the stairs. But when he found out the truth, his heart hurt more than anyone else. Bai Jinxiu and Bailey Xiong were also shocked. Bai Jinxiu shook her head. I don't believe it. Xiao Yi, did you lie because you didn't want Yun Qian to be your mommy? I didn't. Grandma, every word I said was the truth. Xiao Yi said angrily. Bailey Han rubbed his brows and said in a deep voice, Mom, Xiao Yi didn't lie. That night, I heard Xiao Yi and Yun Qian's conversation at the top of the stairs. Did you also see Yun Qian push Xiao Yi down the stairs? Bai Jinxiu was very satisfied with Su Yun Qian as her future daughter-in-law, so she naturally spoke up for her. Also, who is the godfather? Why did Yun Qian panic when she heard his name? The whole thing is completely baffling. Mom, although I didn't see Yun Qian push Xiao Yi down the stairs, I believe that Xiao Yi wouldn't lie. When Bailey Han looked at his mother now, it was as if he was looking at himself in the past. His bias towards Su Yun Qian had already reached a terrifying level. Mom, the godfather is the middleman of a city's killer organization. Why did Yun Qian panic when she heard his name? Why did Xiao Yi hear her talking to the godfather? Isn't the information revealed clear enough? Bailey Han didn't want to involve Xia Dong's matter. Bai Jinxiu still didn't want to believe it. Old Madam's face turned pale. She was more rational than Bai Jinxiu, and of course, she thought more deeply than her. What else could a middleman of a killer organization do? It was either to reminisce about the past or to hire a killer. If it was the former, Yun Qian didn't have to panic. If it was the latter, it proved that she wasn't as kind and virtuous as she appeared to be. Since she wasn't a kind person, it was very likely that she pushed Xiao Yi down the stairs to silence her. Old Madam could accept that the woman in Bailey's family was ruthless. Otherwise, how could she support the whole Bailey's family? But she could only be ruthless to outsiders, not her own family. If Su Yunqian really did something to hurt Xiao Yi, then she couldn't enter Bailey's family. Old Madam already had a plan in her heart, but she didn't rush to make a conclusion. She looked up at Bailey Han and asked, "Is this why you broke up with Yun Qian?" Bailey Han didn't say anything, which was a tacit admission. Xiao Yi refused to let Su Yunqian off easily. He tugged at old madam's sleeve and said, "Great-grandma, I heard that Aunt Yunqian is pregnant." "It's not daddy's child. Xiao Yi, don't talk nonsense." Bai Jingxiu scolded him harshly. "You're still a child. What do you mean by pregnant? Where did you hear it from? Don't tell anyone. It'll ruin Yun Qian's reputation." "I'm not talking nonsense." Xiao Yi's eyes were filled with tears. He looked very pitiful. Old madam couldn't bear to see Xiao Yi sad. "Okay, Jingxiu, Xiao Yi is still a child. Just teach him well. Why are you shouting so loudly?" He touched Xiao Yi's head and said, "Xiao Yi, where did you hear it from?" "I heard Daddy and Aunt Yunqian quarreling that day," Xiao Yi said aggrievedly. Old madam's face darkened. "Han, what's going on?" Bailey Han was very helpless against his son's method of forcing a duck onto a perch. He had no choice but to tell them the truth. "This matter started 2 months ago. Actually, we didn't have sex. Her pregnancy was also fake." Bai Jingxiu had never heard anyone mention Su Yunqian's pregnancy until now. After hearing so much information all at once, she was shocked. Old madam's heart became clear. Only then did she realize that Su Yunqian was not simple. She had said that she had a miscarriage at the hospital back then, probably to cover up the fake pregnancy. "How dare you hide this kind of thing from me?" Old madam was disappointed in Bailey Han and even more disappointed in Su Yunqian. Bailey Han did not refute and said lightly, "Grandma, I've already made up my mind to break up with Yun Qian. Don't force me anymore." Old madam suddenly looked a lot older. She sighed. "Forget it. A forcibly picked melon won't be sweet. Let it be." Bailey Han frowned. "Mom, how are we going to explain this to the Su family?" Old madam pinched the space between her eyebrows. "Ahan and Yun Qian broke up half a month ago. The Su family hasn't said anything. I guess they don't know about Ahan's breakup either. Let's leave it at that for now. If the Su family really wants to fall out with us, we have nothing to be afraid of. After all, we're on the side of reason." After the storm, everyone except Xiao Yi looked a little tired. Bailey Han brought Xiao Yi back to the villa. The father and son did not speak along the way. The atmosphere in the car was tense. The driver was sweating profusely. He brought the young master back to the old mansion without the eldest young master's permission. Would he be punished? Fortunately, Bailey Han did not mention this. After getting out of the car, Bailey Han sent Xiao Yi back to the room. Xiao Yi sat at the head of the bed unhappily with a sullen face. Bailey Han squatted in front of him and asked, "Why are you unhappy?" He pouted. "Because Daddy is angry." "Daddy, are you angry because I said bad things about Auntie Yun Qian in front of great-grandma?" "Daddy is not angry." Bailey Han did not know how to explain his complicated feelings to him. He could only say, Auntie Yun Qian might have done something wrong temporarily. If everyone knows that she did something wrong, she might never have the chance to change. "I just don't want to see great-grandma blame Daddy." Xiao Yi's serious expression warmed Bailey Han's heart. He hugged his son tightly and said softly, "Daddy knows." Xiao Yi reached out and hugged him. After a moment of silence, he said, "Daddy, do you still remember what Mommy looks like?" Bailey Han paused. "I don't remember. Why are you suddenly asking about this?" Xiao Yi's mood suddenly fell. "Because I saw Xiao Bao and the others playing happily with Chief Editor Xia today." Bailey Han's body stiffened. He lied to him. Xiao Yi's mommy is a very gentle person. She loves Xiao Yi very much, just like Daddy. "Really?" Xiao Yi's big eyes welled up with tears. However, he buried his head in Bailey Han's chest and did not let him see it. "It's true." Bailey Han gently stroked his back. "Daddy, can you tell me how you met Mommy?" There was a hint of nervousness in his soft voice. Bailey Han smiled bitterly. Actually, he did not remember either. He could only change what old madam had told him before and tell Xiao Yi. "Your mommy and I met at a bar. We fell in love at first sight and soon had you. But why don't you remember what Mommy looks like?" "I really want to know what Mommy looks like." Xiao Yi was very sad. He had never even seen his mommy's photo since he was young. Even when he dreamed of mommy, he could not clearly see her face. Daddy was once in a car accident and forgot a lot of things. He also forgot your mommy. Xiao-Yi, don't be sad. Daddy promises that he will love Xiao-Yi even more in the future. Make up for your mommy's share, okay? Bailey Han saw his son cry sadly and felt worse than being stabbed by needles. Xiao-Yi choked and said, okay. Awesome novel, Shinwu 799. Chapter 159. Xia Dong brought Xiao Guai to the hospital for a checkup. The doctor said that Xiao Guai's condition was still good and there was no further deterioration. This meant that the chemotherapy had temporarily controlled her condition. At the same time, he suggested that Xia Dong send the child to the hospital as soon as possible for easier treatment. Xia Dong planned to send Xiao Guai to the hospital for hospitalization after Mika Kito returned to China. The side effects of the chemotherapy on Xiao Guai were starting to show. When Xia Dong was combing her hair in the morning, she would secretly pinch a handful of hair that had fallen out behind her back and quietly throw it into the bottom of the trash can. After every chemotherapy session, Xiao Guai would be very tired. From the time she left the hospital until she got into the car, Xia Dong would always carry her and put her in the front passenger seat. She would fall asleep very quickly. Every time this happened, Xia Dong would feel very upset. She wished she could bear all the pain on behalf of her daughter. Xiao Guai fell asleep again. Her little face was abnormally pale, without a trace of blood. While waiting for the traffic light to turn green, Xia Dong took out a clean blanket and covered her body. After Xia Dong turned around, she inadvertently saw the car beside her. The driver was Lin Shihao. Beside him was a beautiful woman. The woman smiled and said something to him. Lin Shihao also smiled. Then the woman took a tissue and wiped his forehead. Her movements were natural and practiced. Lin Shihao calmly accepted it. Xia Dong frowned. They seemed to be very close. After returning home, she still could not forget that scene. After thinking for a long time, she decided to give Yi Siki a call. Yizi, I went for a prenatal checkup today and realized that old Lin was not around. Didn't he go to work today? Yi Siki laughed. Yeah, you should have called him in advance. He went to a conference today. Just him alone? No, I heard from him that he went with a colleague. Xia Dong replied with an "oh" and teased, could it be a woman? Yi Siki smiled. He was with a female doctor. Old Lin said that she was his junior and had just returned from America not long ago. The director even specially instructed him to bring her out to see the world. Why is the dean involved again? You don't understand. Elder Lin's junior is the dean's daughter. Xia Dong said half-jokingly, the dean's daughter is beautiful and capable. Aren't you worried that she will fall for your husband? Yi Siki scoffed at her words. Old Lin tells me everything. Do you think I need to worry? Xia Dong smiled. I'm not asking you to suspect him. I just want you to be more careful. Even if Lin Shihao doesn't have any bad intentions, there are so many beautiful doctors in the obstetrics and gynecology department. Who knows if they will have any ideas? Don't worry. I have absolute faith in our old Lin. How many men like him can you find who would still give me a gift on Qing Festival after 7 years of marriage? Xia Dong smiled bitterly. You're right. I can't find many like that. Men these days would coax you nicely when they were dating, but after they married you, they would become a completely different person. Then that's it. Don't worry about us. You should think more about yourself. Yi Siki started to talk about the usual. Didn't Bailey Han treat you to a meal 2 days ago? How was it? Xia Dong rubbed her eyebrows. What do you mean by how was it? It was just like that. He didn't take the opportunity to confess. Can we not talk about this anymore? Xia Dong scratched the sofa. Yi Siki snorted. You didn't directly reject my question, so that means he confessed. Hurry up and tell me the truth. Xia Dong face-bombed. It's a loss for this industry if you don't become a paparazzi. Don't change the topic. Hurry up and tell me the truth. If you resist, you'll be severely punished. If you confess, you'll be lenient. All right. Xia Dong scratched her head. Actually, it wasn't really a confession. And it wasn't on the day he treated me to a meal. Oh girl, can you please get to the point? Why are you dawdling? Xia Dong was speechless. My dear lady, you're really hard to please. Alright, I'll tell you. When he was discharged from the hospital, tell me. Although she was just repeating Bailey Han's words, Xia Dong's face still started to burn. Yi Siki clicked her tongue and sighed. I told you that he was interested in you, but you didn't believe me. With your EQ, if you were really in a relationship, you'd be so anxious. If you like him, you like him. Why do you have to beat around the bush? She really thought too highly of Bailey Han. Xia Dong was speechless. Yi Siki sighed. Actually, I've always thought highly of Mika Kido. Although he looks cold, he treats you and the children quite well. But the problem is that his profession is too dangerous. If you were to be with him, you'd be in a lot of danger. Comparing him to you, Bailey Han's advantages are obvious. Yi Siki didn't say anything else. She planned to change it to matchmaking Bailey Han and Xia Dong in the future. Xia Dong felt that she had failed. She had called Yi Siki to remind her to be more careful, but she didn't expect her relationship problems to be exposed. She quickly changed the topic. Your old Lin will be in the hospital tomorrow, right? I'll go for a prenatal checkup tomorrow. Yi Siki's long-winded speech was stopped by her. Although she didn't want to give up, she was afraid that if she said too much, Yi Siki would be annoyed. So, she followed her lead and said, Yes, old Lin will go to the hospital tomorrow. Xia Dong heard the ringtone and said, Yi Zi, I have another call coming in. I'll hang up first. Call me if you need anything. Xia Dong ended the call with Yi Siki and answered Bailey Yun's call. Fox, what's the matter? Bailey Yun's voice was a little low. Xia, I want to meet you. Sure. You can decide the time and place. I know you have to take care of the children. I'll come to your place tonight. I'll call you when I arrive. Bailey Yun sounded a little off. Xia Dong was worried and asked a few more questions. He said that it was fine and that they would meet again tonight. Who would have thought that in the evening, it would start to drizzle? Xia Dong called Bailey Yun, but no one picked up. She walked to the window from time to time and looked out. She lived on the 5th floor and the window faced the neighborhood, so she could see everything clearly. After about half an hour, a Lamborghini slowly drove into the neighborhood. Xia Dong had already changed her clothes. She said a few words to the children and went downstairs with her phone and umbrella. Before she entered the elevator, she received a call from Bai Liyun. Xia, I'm at your place. Come down. Okay. Give me 2 minutes. I'm going into the elevator. She walked out of the door and saw him standing in the rain without an umbrella. The rain fell on him sporadically. She quickened her pace and walked over to him. She held the umbrella over his head and said, It's raining. Why didn't you wait in the car? His hair was already wet. His handsome face was also covered with rain. His charming fox eyes were slightly narrowed as he stared straight at her. What's wrong? Xia Dong felt uncomfortable being stared at by him. He smiled and chuckled. I'll take you somewhere. Okay. Xia Dong followed him into the car and handed him a tissue. Wipe your face. You're all wet. Bailey Yun took the tissue and wiped his face casually. The Lamborghini slowly drove out of the neighborhood. After driving for more than 10 minutes, it stopped on the road near the man-made lake. We're here. Bailey Yun suddenly leaned over. His handsome face was getting closer and closer to her. She grabbed the seatbelt awkwardly. He chuckled. I'll help you unbuckle your seatbelt. I can do it myself. Xia Dong quickly unbuckled her seatbelt and got out of the car. Bailey Yun walked to her side and held her hand. Without looking at her, he said softly, The steps are slippery. Be careful. Xia Dong was too embarrassed to push his hand away. The man-made lake wasn't very big. There was a pavilion beside it. When Xia Dong got closer, she realized that there were dozens of lotus lanterns floating in the lake. All of the lotus lanterns were gathered in the shape of a heart. Although the rain wasn't heavy, there was wind. The wind blew the candles in the lotus lanterns until the flames flickered, but none of them went out. Did you light all these lanterns yourself? He nodded and asked with a chuckle, Do they look good? Yes, but why did you light so many lanterns? Xiaodong was still wondering why he was so wet when the rain wasn't heavy. It turned out that he had lit the lanterns in the rain earlier. Bailey Yun's face twitched uncontrollably. He reached out and knocked on her forehead. I beg of you, can't you be a little more romantic? Xiaodong rubbed her forehead innocently. It's not that I'm not romantic. It's just that I find it strange. It's not like today is a special day. By the lake, the night was cold. In the lake, the candlelight flickered and the waves were beautiful. They stood in the pavilion, quietly looking at the lake and the candlelight. He suddenly reached out his arm and turned her shoulder around. His eyes looked at her seriously, as if he wanted to see into her heart. She was a little flustered. Bailey Yun held her shoulders with a serious expression. Xiaodong, I love you. He thought about what Xiao Tianxing said for a long time. In the end, he decided to stake everything on one throw to let her understand his feelings. I love you. This was the first time someone had confessed to her in such a clear and straightforward manner, but she was still extremely flustered. Fox, don't joke around. His fingers gripped her shoulders so tightly that they hurt. His voice was serious and urgent. I'm not joking. Xiaodong, I've liked you for 5 years. Her heart trembled. She bit her lip and didn't dare to look into his eyes. He waited anxiously for her to speak. After a long time, Xiaodong finally said the 3 words that he didn't want to hear the most. I'm sorry. His heart, which had been in his throat, suddenly fell to the bottom of the valley and shattered into pieces. After a long time, he found his voice again. It was bitter and hoarse. Why? Xiaodong smiled bitterly. Look, I already have 2 children, and I'm pregnant with a 3rd. You, on the other hand, are handsome, rich, and charming. We're not compatible at all. The light in his eyes disappeared. He stared at her flat stomach in disbelief. Why you're pregnant? Awesome novel, Hongcha 866. Chapter 160. Xiaodong nodded and stroked her abdomen with her right hand. It's already been 3 months. He looked as if he had been struck by lightning. His face was pale and he let go of her stiffly. The child is Mika Kito's? Do you love him? Xiaodong did not know how to answer him. She wanted him to give up, so she should answer him accordingly. However, she did not want to use Mika Kito as a shield anymore. Why aren't you answering me? He shouted agitatedly. Do you know how much courage I had to muster to confess to you? Are you not even willing to give me a reason? She looked up at him. The dim light cast a shadow on her face. My heart has been given to the 3 children. I don't have the energy to talk about feelings anymore. Fox, let's just be friends. She picked up the umbrella and wanted to leave. He suddenly grabbed her hand. You really can't do that? I'm sorry. Other than these 3 words, she did not know what else to say. Inch by inch, he let go of her hand and watched as she walked further and further away under the streetlights with the umbrella. The pitter-patter of rain had unknowingly become heavier, and it fell into the lake. The lotus lanterns were extinguished one by one, and in the end, there was only a single lantern left floating in the lake. Bailey Yun looked at her figure disappearing into the night. His mood was terrible. He had failed. Was he really going to give up on her? After walking a distance, the tears in Xiaodong's eyes finally fell. She was so silly. The fox liked her for 5 years, but she didn't realize it. Or rather, she knew it, but she pretended not to know. It was all because she was greedy for his elegance and the warmth he gave her. A figure approached her. She was startled and raised her head abruptly. What she saw was Bailey Han's familiar face. He was holding a black umbrella and seemed to have blended in with the night. Why you here? Bailey Han looked at her. His handsome face was unusually handsome under the dim light and his whole body was cold. I'm just taking a walk. One had to know that it would take an hour to drive from his house. He really knew how to walk around casually. The 2 of them were silent. Unknowingly, they had already reached the ground floor of her house. She mumbled, I'll go up first. His voice was cold. Aren't you going to invite me up? Out of politeness, She should indeed invite him up to have a seat. However, their current situation seemed to be very awkward. "I'll send you up." Before she could say anything, he had already made the decision for her. He entered the elevator first and pressed the button to wait for her. The floor numbers jumped, and when the number reached 4, the elevator suddenly shook and stopped moving. The lights went out, and the small space was plunged into darkness. The elevator was out of order. Xia Dong quickly took out her phone and used the weak light to illuminate the elevator. Bailey Han also took out his phone and called for help while reaching out to press the elevator alarm. "Don't be afraid, the maintenance staff will be here soon." Bailey Han comforted her after ending the call. Xia Dong smiled bitterly. "We're really unlucky. We've never encountered an elevator malfunction before. What a coincidence that the two of us encountered it together." Bailey Han suddenly hugged her and said in a low voice, "You know, I'm very glad that I walked into the elevator with you just now." Her heart trembled. "Why?" He stroked her long hair and his actions were unbelievably gentle. "How could I be at ease leaving you alone in here?" It would be a lie to say that she was not touched. Her heart felt like it was stuffed with a ball of cotton. She even forgot to push him away and muttered, "You shouldn't be so good to me." He smiled bitterly. "I don't want to either. I know that you're someone else's woman, but I just can't control myself." Because he couldn't control his longing for her, he drove to her neighborhood and happened to see a scene that he shouldn't have seen. Xia Dong felt helpless. She realized that she had gotten herself into a lot of emotional debt. "Did A Yun confess to you?" There were so many lotus flower lights. He only needed to look at them from afar to understand Bailey Yun's intentions. She softly said, "Oh. Then how did you reply to him?" His hand involuntarily tightened around her shoulders. She laughed. "Didn't you say that I'm someone else's woman? Of course, I could only reject him. Looks like you really love Mika Kido." Bailey Han's anger rose in an instant. The narrow space was filled with a cold aura. She gently pushed him away and pursed her lips. She didn't say anything else. The atmosphere suddenly became very tense. Just then, someone knocked on the elevator door. "The people inside, don't worry. We'll get you out as soon as possible." There were clanking sounds outside the door. It was the maintenance staff using tools to pry open the elevator door. Soon, the elevator opened a very small gap. The gap grew bigger and bigger. A head peeked in from above the elevator door. It was a man in his 40s. "Both of you, give me your hands. I'll pull you up." It was only then that Xia Dong realized that the elevator had stopped between the 4th and 5th floor. It was about 1.5 meters below the entrance of the staircase. If it were any other day, Xia Dong could easily climb up. But now she was pregnant. "Come up." Bailey Han understood her predicament. He squatted on the floor with his back facing her and pointed to his shoulder. She couldn't help but recall the time when they were on the deserted island. After she was bitten by a snake, he carried her on his back. He was already impatient. "What are you waiting for? It's not the first time." Xia Dong's face instantly darkened. What did he mean by "it's not the first time"? It sounded very easy to think of strange things, okay? She carefully climbed onto his shoulder. He stood up steadily and slowly. The maintenance staff outside the elevator reached out to grab her and pulled her out. The maintenance staff reached out again and pulled Bailey Han out. "Thank you so much." Xia Dong thanked the two maintenance staff gratefully. The maintenance staff exchanged a few pleasantries and continued to deal with the malfunction. Xia Dong and the others climbed the stairs upstairs. When the door opened, Xiao Bao, who was nestled on the sofa playing on the computer, didn't even raise his head. He said lazily, "Mom, why were you gone for so long?" "I'm back now, aren't I?" "Xiao Bao, stop playing. Uncle Bailey is here. Hurry up and say hi to Uncle." Xia Dong took out a pair of clean slippers and placed them beside Bailey Han's feet. Xiao Bao quickly raised his head. His dark eyes stared intently at Bailey Han. His tone was a little harsh. "Bailey Han, what are you doing here?" "Xiao Bao, don't be so rude." Xia Dong reprimanded him sternly. Xiao Bao rarely got yelled at so harshly by her. He felt very wronged and glared fiercely at Bailey Han, who had just entered the room. I hate you. He quickly jumped off the sofa, hugged his laptop, and ran back to his room. Bailey Han didn't look too good. Xia Dong was full of guilt. I'm sorry. Xiao Bao is too willful. I didn't teach him well. His thin lips moved. It's okay. She quickly asked him to sit down. What do you like to drink? Tea. He looked around the living room. Although he had been here a few times, he had never really looked at it seriously. It was a very warm and cozy place that made people feel relaxed and comfortable. He leaned against the soft sofa and watched as she picked up the tea set. Her movements were elegant as she heated the teacups and poured the tea leaves. The tea leaves slowly sank and the tea leaves unfolded. The water vapor mixed with the fragrance of the tea rose like clouds. Her expression was calm as she poured, and ordered the tea. The tea slowly flowed into a small transparent glass teacup. You know the art of tea. Every time he got close to her, she would give him a new surprise. I have a lot of time now. I'm interested, so I learned a little. Sorry for making a fool of myself. He picked up the teacup and smelled the fragrance of the tea leaves. No, it's very good. He wasn't lying. Her skillful postures were even more standard and elegant than those rich miss who came from wealthy families and had learned the art of tea. She chuckled. He put down the teacup and looked at her. Are you still feeling unwell now that your drug addiction is acting up every day? I'm already much better. The antidote you brought is very effective. I haven't thanked you properly yet. He smiled. You already owe me a lot of thanks. It doesn't matter if you owe me one less time. She raised her eyebrows. Are you blaming me for not repaying you? He crossed his arms and looked at her provocatively. You're the one who said it. I've never said it before. Xia Dong's mouth twitched. He had indeed never said it before. He had only asked her directly how she was going to repay him. Mom, Xiao Bao suddenly ran into the living room in a panic. Gigai has a fever. Xia Dong stood up from the sofa. The back of her hand accidentally hit the teacup and the hot tea spilled all over the table. It also scalded the back of her hand. She didn't take it to heart at all. She said, "Excuse me," and rushed to her daughter's room. Bailey Han frowned. His eyes were filled with worry as he chased after her. Xiao Guai was lying on the bed with her eyes tightly shut. Her delicate eyebrows were knitted together and her little face was filled with pain. Xia Dong quickly checked her temperature on her forehead. It was frighteningly hot. She quickly took a jacket and put it on Xiao Guai. Then she carried her and said to Xiao Bao, "Baby, Mommy will send Gigai to the hospital. After I leave, lock the door and go to bed early. Don't make me worry." "I got it, Hurry up and go." Xia Dong turned her gaze to Bailey Han. "I'm sorry. My daughter is sick. I have to take her to the hospital." "I'll go with you." Bailey Han stretched out his arm without hesitation. "It's inconvenient for you. I'll carry the child." Xia Dong didn't refuse. She placed the child in his arms, took her handbag and umbrella, and hurried out. The elevator was working normally. Xia Dong was still a little worried. Bailey Han had already carried his daughter into the elevator. She had no choice but to follow. Fortunately, the elevator didn't have any more problems. It was still raining. Bailey Han took off his jacket and wrapped it around Xiao Guai. Xia Dong held the umbrella over their heads. Bailey Han found his car and put Xiao Guai in the back seat. "Sit behind the child. It'll be easier to take care of her." Xia Dong was worried that the rain on her body would get on Xiao Guai, so she took off her jacket. Bailey Han turned up the temperature. Beauty novel, Song Shu 566. Chapter 161. Xiao Guai was sent to the emergency room. Xia Dong sat in the corridor of the hospital and waited anxiously. Xiao Guai had been fine before she went out to meet Bailey Yun. Why did she suddenly have a fever? A fever meant that there was a possibility of infection. Severe anemia was more difficult to control after an infection, and it could be accompanied by complications such as sepsis. Xia Dong couldn't control her mind and kept coming up with scary thoughts. She stared at the door of the emergency room, and her teeth clenched slightly because of her trembling. Bailey Han sat beside her and clearly felt her fear. He couldn't help but reach out and hold her cold right hand. He whispered, "Don't worry, Xiao Guai will be fine." He didn't understand why she was so scared when it was just a common fever and a cold. His strength seemed to be transmitted to her through his palm, making her feel that she wasn't alone and that there was someone with her to get through this difficult time. Her emotions gradually stabilized. Bailey Han felt that Xia Dong had stopped trembling. He wanted to retract his hand, but he couldn't bear to. Unexpectedly, she suddenly pulled her right hand out and said softly, "Bailey Han, thank you. It's late now, you should go back first." An inexplicable anger surged in his heart. "Do you think I can leave at this time?" So what if she relied on him a little? Xia Dong bit her lip and didn't say anything else. She was afraid that she would become more greedy for his warmth and hurt his heart. She had already caused enough trouble and didn't want to add another one. They sat quietly in the corridor. Even though they didn't speak, Xia Dong's heart calmed down a lot. After some time, the door of the emergency room finally opened and the doctor walked out. Xia Dong hurriedly went up to him and Bailey Han followed closely behind. "Doctor, how's my daughter?" The doctor's gaze fell on the two of them. "The patient is out of danger, but she's still in a high fever and her respiratory tract is infected. We're already thinking of ways to control her condition. Doctor, please save my daughter." Because she had always been careful in the past, even though Xiao Guai's health was poor, he had never been infected. Once she heard that Xiao Guai had a respiratory infection and a high temperature, Xia Dong panicked. "Don't worry. Your daughter's current situation is already considered relatively good among the similar diseases. Trust us, there will be a way to control her infection." "Thank you, doctor, thank you." Xiao Guai was sent to the isolation ward. After Xia Dong and Bailey Han disinfected themselves, they put on isolation suits, masks, and gloves before they were allowed to enter the ward. Her face was pale. She was lying in a pile of instruments, and there was a thin tube in her nose. Xia Dong felt distressed when she saw it. She blamed herself. If she hadn't gone downstairs to see Bailey Yun, if she had stayed by her daughter's side, her daughter might not have had a fever. Bailey Han patted her shoulder. When they came out of the isolation ward, Bailey Han's expression was grave. "What illness does Xiao Guai have?" From the conversation between the doctor and Xia Dong, he had already guessed that Xiao Guai's illness was not simple. "It's just ordinary anemia." Xia Dong didn't dare to tell him the truth for fear of arousing his suspicion. He naturally didn't believe it. Although he wasn't a doctor, he knew that ordinary anemia couldn't have such serious symptoms. Her refusal to tell him the truth made him very angry. But she didn't have time to care. Looking at her watch, it was already past 10 o'clock. She said, "I'm going to make a call." She took out her phone and walked to the end of the corridor to call Lu Xing. She told him about Xiao Guai's illness and that she would be at the hospital to accompany Xiao Guai. She also asked him and Suzaku not to worry and asked him to come to her house to take care of Xiao Bao. When she came back after the call, Bailey Han was nowhere to be seen. She thought that he had already gone back, but she didn't expect him to come back a few minutes later. He said lightly, "I've already asked the nurse, miss, to arrange for someone to take care of you. You can go home and rest tonight." "Thank you, but I'm worried. I'll stay too." He grabbed her wrist and his handsome face was cold. "Have you forgotten that you're pregnant? If something happens to you, who will take care of Xiao Guai?" She was stunned and couldn't refute him. "You have nothing to say? Very well, I'll take you home now." He grabbed her wrist and dragged her forward. She quickly grabbed onto the bench. "Wait a minute, I want to see Xiao Guai again." He let go of her hand. She stood in front of the window of the isolation ward and looked at her daughter who was still unconscious through the glass. She prayed silently in her heart that her daughter would be able to get through the night safely, that her body temperature would drop quickly, and that her respiratory infection would be controlled quickly. "Okay, let's go." She was afraid that the more she looked at her daughter, the more reluctant she would be to leave. She steeled her heart and turned to leave. It was already 11 o'clock when they arrived downstairs. Bailey Han insisted on taking her upstairs. Standing at the door, she took out the key to open the door. Just as she put the key in, the door was opened by someone from inside. Lu Xing stood in front of them expressionlessly. His eyes were cold and murderous through his thick lenses and sharp as a knife as he glanced at Bailey Han. His whole body was emitting a signal. How dare you steal boss's woman? You don't want to live anymore. Bailey Han completely ignored him and said goodbye to Xia Dong calmly. Be careful on the road. Xia Dong watched Bailey Han enter the elevator and glared at Lu Xing. Lu Xing, do you have to be so obvious? Am I? Lu Xing's tone was indifferent. I think my expression is very normal. Your expression is very normal because you've always been expressionless. But your eyes are about to freeze. Xia Dong was speechless. Do you hate Bailey Han that much? Lu Xing said indifferently, if I liked him, things would be serious. Lu Xing, so you also know how to joke. Be careful that no girl likes you when you're always so cold. Lu Xing's mouth twitched. No, I'm very popular in Japan. A flock of crows flew over Xia Dong's head. Sure enough, she shouldn't have had too high expectations for Lu Xing's humor. Xia Dong scratched her head. You can sleep on the sofa tonight. You don't mind, right? Sure. Xia Dong ran into the room, took a clean blanket and pillow, and laid them on the sofa. It seemed that she had to prepare a simple single bed in case of emergencies. Xia Dong rushed to the hospital early in the morning. The prenatal checkup that was originally scheduled for the morning was postponed to the afternoon. Xiao Guai hadn't woken up yet, but the doctors said that her body temperature had dropped last night. Other than a respiratory infection, there were no other symptoms for the time being. Xia Dong was so excited that she kept thanking the doctor. After more than half an hour, Yi Siki also arrived at the hospital with a thermos of chicken soup in her hand. Why did you make chicken soup? Xiao Guai hasn't woken up yet. She can eat it now. Yi Siki scooped a small bowl with a spoon and handed it to her. This is for you. You were worried about Xiao Guai, so you definitely didn't eat well. You can take it, but the baby can't. Quick, drink it while it's hot. Holding the warm chicken soup in her hand, the room was filled with the fragrance of chicken soup. Xia Dong was very touched. After drinking the soup, Xia Dong said, yesterday, it was Bailey Han who sent Xiao Guai and I to the hospital. I'm a little worried that he will find out about Xiao Guai's illness. Why don't you just tell him the truth? Seeing them so conflicted, Yi Siki felt tired for them. How can I do that? If the old madam finds out, she'll eat me up. Xia Dong was scared when she thought about the scene back then. When will you stop being like this? Can you hide it from him forever? I'll hide it for a while. When the baby is born and Xiao Guai's illness is cured, I'll leave City A. By then, the truth won't matter anymore. Xia Dong leaned back in her chair and chuckled softly. I realize that I'm like a frightened bird now. As long as there's even the slightest movement, I'm worried that the truth will be revealed. Yi Siki hit the nail on the head. But Bailey Han's feelings for you seem to be getting deeper and deeper. What do you plan to do about it? She laughed. What do you think I'm best at? Yi Siki rolled his eyes. Running away. Whenever she encountered relationship problems, Xia Dong would run away. Yi Siki was really speechless with her. Just as they said this, Xia Dong's cell phone rang. It was Bailey Han. How is Xiao Guai now? She's much better. Thank you for your concern. I'll visit her after work tonight. Okay, sorry to trouble you. Every sentence was very polite, as if she was chatting with a stranger. Bailey Han frowned. You take care of yourself too. Okay, I know. After the call ended, Yi Siki looked helpless. He was right. Bailey Han was getting more and more attentive to Xia Xia. It was a pity that Xia Xia wasn't willing to give him any response. Yi Siki sat for a while longer. Xia Dong urged her to go home, saying that her daughter was also home alone. Xia Dong walked Yi Siki to the elevator. When the elevator doors opened, she bumped into someone she didn't want to see, Xia Zhenxing. Xia Zhenxing also saw her. The moment the elevator doors closed, he pressed the button and walked out. Xia Dong looked at him coldly. After not seeing him for a few months, he looked even older. He must have been exhausted because of Su Xingxin's matter. Xia, why are you here? Are you sick? Or are the children sick? Xia Zhensheng asked with concern. Xia Dong said indifferently, why are you concerned about me instead of your precious daughter? Xia Zhensheng's expression froze and he squeezed out an ugly smile. Xia, you're also my daughter. Xingxin is now staying in this hospital. I only found out later that Xingxin had done a lot of things to hurt you. Xia, I apologize on her behalf. Xia Dong wanted to laugh. There were so many hospitals in a city, but they just had to stay in one. How much is a caddy for your apology? It's too cheap. I don't care. If there's nothing else, I'll take my leave. She turned to leave. Xia. He wanted to hold her back, but when his fingers touched her wrist, he was mercilessly flung away. Add, Song Shu 566. Chapter 162. Xia Zhensheng watched as she walked further and further away. In the end, he couldn't help but secretly follow her. In the end, he found that she had stopped in front of the isolation ward. He didn't dare to approach her and could only watch from afar. When she changed into the isolation gown and entered the ward, he acted like a thief and leaned against the wall. He saw his cute little granddaughter lying on the hospital bed, her face pale and weak to the point that it made his heart ache. His phone suddenly rang. Xia Zhensheng hurriedly covered his phone and quickly ran away. He lowered his voice. Honey. Xia Zhensheng, where are you now? Why haven't you come down after so long? Su Murong's unhappy voice came from the phone. I just asked you to come down and get something. You're not happy, are you? Honey, you misunderstood. There were too many people in the elevator, so I waited for a few more minutes. Xia Zhensheng quickly ran to the elevator. When he reached this floor, he quickly pressed the button. Hurry up and come down. Su Murong didn't wait for his reply and impatiently hung up the phone. Xia Zhensheng ran all the way out of the hospital. In the parking lot outside the hospital, a luxury car was parked. Seeing him appear, the car window slowly rolled down. Su Murong handed a bag of clothes out of the window. She frowned and complained, this is Xingxin's change of underwear. Give it to the nurse. You knew that I had to go to the company for a meeting, so why didn't you hurry up? Xia Zhensheng took the bag and smiled, okay, I got it. Honey, hurry up and go. Su Xingxin stayed in the VIP ward on the 12th floor. Ever since her face was disfigured, her temper became more and more irritable. She was like a firecracker. As long as someone said something she didn't like, she would fly into a rage. Because of this, Xia Zhensheng had to be careful. He even helped to say a lot of good things to the doctors and nurses. Although her temper was irritable, in front of Su Murong, she was as obedient as before. So every time Su Murong heard Xia Zhensheng say that Su Xingxin's temper became worse, she didn't take it seriously. This only increased Su Xingxin's temper. When Xia Zhensheng returned to the ward, Su Xingxin was throwing a tantrum again. The things on the bedside table were scattered all over the floor. The cause was that Su Xingxin's hair was accidentally hooked by the nurse when she wiped her body. Su Xingxin had her first plastic surgery and her face was wrapped in gauze. She leaned against the bed and pointed at the nurse's nose and scolded her. The nurse's nurse is sorry, but she didn't let her. Xia Zhensheng couldn't stand it anymore. He put the bag aside and said, Xingxin, she didn't do it on purpose. Don't blame her anymore. She didn't do it? Then she did it on purpose to kill me? Xia Zhensheng's s, suit look, teet, so what if I? Xingxin of her testis, Su B's not be laughed, Xia Zhensheng immediately shut his mouth. He knew that if he continued to argue, Su Xingxin's mood would only get worse. He waved his hand and called the nurse outside the door. Lowering his voice, he said, Little Wang, Xingxin's current condition is not good. She often says some unpleasant things. Don't take it to heart. Little Wang had taken care of many patients before and had seen many with bad tempers. However, it was her first time seeing someone like Su Xingxin. She felt wronged. Mr. Xia, I can't do this job. You should hire someone else. Little Wang, please be understanding. Xia Zhenxing said some nice words, but little Wang didn't want to take it anymore. How about this, little Wang? I'll give you double your salary. You can hold on a little longer, okay? Little Wang hesitated. The Su family was already giving her a high nursing fee. If she were to double it, the amount would be considerable. However, with Su Xingxin's temper, after hesitating for a while, she finally nodded her head. Xia Zhenxing breathed a sigh of relief. In this month, Su Xingxin had already angered 2 nurses. If little Wang also quit, he really didn't know where to find such an experienced and good-tempered nurse. After comforting the nurse, Xia Zhenxing returned to the ward. Xingxin, you rest for a while. I'm going out to do something. Didn't you just come downstairs? Su Xingxin had been lying on the bed for a long time. Whenever she saw someone else walking around freely, her heart would burn with anger. I just came downstairs to get your clothes. I'm going out to buy some fruits for you. Okay then. Come back quickly. Xia Zhenxing didn't take the elevator directly to the ground floor. Instead, he stopped on the 7th floor. This was where he met Xia Dong. He wanted to take a few more glances at Xiao Guai. On Xia Dong's side, the situation was a bit complicated. She didn't expect her aunt and uncle to suddenly visit the children at her home. Lu Xing didn't know the situation and directly told them that Xiao Guai was hospitalized. The 2 elders rushed to the hospital. When they saw Xiao Guai in the isolation ward, they immediately thought that Xiao Guai was seriously ill. They didn't believe Xia Dong's words and directly ran to the doctor's office to ask about Xiao Guai's condition. Xia Yun kept wiping her tears. How did this happen? How did Xiao Guai get this kind of illness? Xia Dong comforted, Aunt, don't be sad. Xiao Guai's illness can still be treated. She will definitely get better. Xia Yun's expression suddenly became fierce. But she slapped her on the arm. Xia Dong, you're so capable now, aren't you? How dare you hide such a big thing from me? If I didn't find out now, how long were you going to hide it from me? Aunt. Xia Dong hugged her arm. Just like when she was young, she softly begged for mercy. Aunt, don't be angry. I just didn't want you and Uncle to worry. It's all my fault. Scold me all you want, but please don't be angry. If you hurt your body, Uncle and I will be heartbroken. You're so glib. Xia Yun angrily poked her forehead with her finger and sighed. I heard from the doctor that Xiao Guai has to undergo an umbilical cord blood transplant. What should we do? Xia Dong leaned over and whispered something in her ear. Xia Yun's expression became even worse. She stared at her in disbelief. You're pregnant? The child is Bailey Han's? Yes. Xia Dong nodded. So, Aunt, don't worry too much. After the baby is born, the doctor can operate on Xiao Guai. How could Xia Yun not be worried? Xiao Guai's matter had been resolved, but Xia Dong had suddenly been promoted from a mother of 2 to a mother of 3. Moreover, she didn't have a husband. What would others think of her? She held Xia Dong's hand tightly. Xia, let's hurry up and find a man to marry. How about Mika Kito? I think he treats you very well. He's been taking care of you all these years in Japan. He knows you very well. Aunt, I've always treated him as an older brother, Xia Dong said helplessly. If her aunt knew that Mika Kito was in the underworld, she definitely wouldn't have said those words. Then I'll use my connections and find someone to introduce you to a blind date. Let's try to get married after the baby is born. Xia Yun was very decisive. She looked up and asked her husband, Gao Mingyuan, Honey, are there any male teachers in your school who are around 30 years old who are not married yet? If there are any suitable ones, you can introduce them to Xia. Aunt, Xia Dong didn't know whether to laugh or cry. You're dreaming. I'm a mother of 3 now. Who would want me? Child, how can you say that? Xia Yun was very protective. She was unhappy when she heard this. She poked her forehead with her finger. So what if you're a mother of 3? You're so young, beautiful and capable. Who would dare to dislike you? I'll fight him. Xia Dong quickly hugged her arm. And let's not rush. Let's not talk about this first. The most important thing now is to treat Xiao Guai's illness. Xia Yun was worried. Xiao Guai's illness is important. Your marriage is also important. Anyway, I want the baby to be born with a father. Xiao Bao and Xiao Guai were born in Japan. It was fine if they didn't have a father, but now the baby in her belly must be born in China. She must find a father for the baby. No matter how Xia Dong tried to persuade her, Xia Yun took this matter to heart. While they were chatting, they found that Xiao Guai in the isolation ward had woken up. They quickly changed into isolation clothes and went to see her. Gigai, you're awake. Do you feel uncomfortable anywhere? The three adults surrounded her. Mommy, great-aunt, great-grandpa. Xiao Guai's eyes slid across them. Her big eyes had lost their usual luster. Her pink lips were dry and cracked, and her soft voice was hoarse. Mommy, I feel so uncomfortable. Where do you feel uncomfortable? Tell Mommy. Xia Dong sat by her bed and held her little hand with heartache. My chest hurts. My throat hurts. My head is dizzy, and I want to vomit. Don't be afraid. Great-aunt will call the doctor for you. Xia Yun let Xia Dong stay with the child while she hurried out to call the doctor. Unexpectedly, when she reached the corridor, she saw Xia Zhenxing walking over in a panic. She shouted, Xia Zhenxing. Xia Zhenxing had been peeking outside the isolation ward. He didn't expect Xia Yun to suddenly come out and be caught red-handed. He looked embarrassed. What are you doing here? Are you peeking at Xiao Guai? Xia Yun was angry when she saw him. She said angrily, Don't come here again. We don't want to see you again. Xia Yun shouted so loudly that everyone in the room heard it. Xia Dong didn't want to go out and cause trouble for herself. Gao Mingyuan was afraid that Xia Yun and Xia Zhenxing would quarrel, so he said something and went out to persuade them. Wife, this is the hospital. Don't shout so loudly. It's not good to be seen by others. Gao Mingyuan walked to their side. Xia Yun snorted and glared at Xia Zhenxing. Forget it. I don't want to talk nonsense with you now. With that, she went to find the doctor. Xia Zhenxing's old face turned red and white. Gao Mingyuan looked at him. Old Qi, Xiao Guai is seriously ill. Xia Dong and Xia Yun are both upset. It's better if you don't appear in front of them for the time being. Xia Zhenxing looked embarrassed. I know. I just want to know how Xiao Guai is. What illness does she have? Attention, Hongcha 866. Chapter 163. A Plastic Anemia. Gao Mingyuan patted him on the shoulder. I know you're not doing well either. I advise you to stay away from us. If the Su family finds out, they won't let you off easily. I understand. Xia Zhenxing was embarrassed by his words. Xingchen is also staying in this hospital. I'll go up first. Gao Mingyuan couldn't help but sigh as he watched Xia Zhenxing's fleeing figure. He still remembered how Xia Ling and Xia Dong had suffered when Xia Zhenxing abandoned them. He also knew that Xia Zhenxing had secretly helped Xia Ling's small restaurant, but Su Murong soon came looking for them. The next day, a group of hooligans came and smashed Xia Ling's restaurant. He didn't need to guess to know that it was Su Murong's doing. Doctor, please take a look. How is the child now? After a detailed examination, the doctor said, the patient's temperature is normal and the respiratory infection is under control. There are no other symptoms of infection. Her condition is relatively good. But the child is uncomfortable. Chest pain, throat pain, dizziness, nausea. Her upper respiratory infection is acute pharyngitis and laryngitis. Chest pain and throat pain are normal reactions. Dizziness and nausea are also symptoms of aplastic anemia. The doctor explained in detail and said, I'll prescribe some medicine for her to relieve her current symptoms. Thank you, doctor. After the doctor left, Xiao Guai lay weakly and pitifully, looking at Xia Dong with teary eyes. Mommy, it's all my fault. Gigai, what's wrong? Xia Dong stroked her hair. I really want to eat ice cream, but Mommy and brother won't let me eat it. Mommy wasn't home last night, so I ate ice cream without telling brother. It was because Xiao Guai ate ice cream that she got a fever. Xia Dong hugged her, her heart full of guilt. If she had been at home with the child, this wouldn't have happened. Big drops of tears rolled down from Xiao Guai's eyes. She sobbed, Mommy, it's all my fault. It's okay. Gigai, don't cry, Xia Dong coaxed her gently. Gigai will get better soon, but you can't eat ice cream anymore. Okay, I won't eat it anymore. Xiao Guai nodded sensibly. After lunch, Xia Dong went to the People's Hospital for a checkup. Xia Yun went home to make soup for Xiao Guai while Gao Mingyuan stayed at the hospital to take care of her. After the prenatal checkup, Lin Shihao said that both the fetus and the mother were healthy. Xia Dong hesitated for a moment and asked, Shihao, I want to know if the medicine has any effect on the child. When will it be tested? From the 16th to the 20th week of pregnancy, you can perform an examination for abnormalities. Through the Tang screening, you can screen the development of the fetus's neural tube. At around the 24th week, you can perform a three-dimensional ultrasound to observe whether the general structure of the limbs and organs is deformed. Xia Dong took note of the time seriously. Lin Shihao said, How is Xiao Guai now? Xia Dong repeated what the doctor said. Lin Shihao comforted her. She'll be fine after the infection is controlled. Don't worry too much. I'm fine. Go on with your work. I won't disturb you anymore. Xia Dong smiled. Someone knocked on the office door. Lin Shihao said, Come in. Bai Meiwei walked in with a cup of coffee. She placed the coffee on Lin Shihao's desk and said with a smile, I bought coffee just now, and I bought a cup for you too. I know you like black coffee without sugar. Lin Shihao smiled. Thank you. Xia Dong recognized Bai Meiwei. She was the woman who sat in Lin Shihao's car that day. Okay, senior, I won't disturb you anymore. Bai Meiwei's gaze fell on Xia Dong. She nodded politely and walked out of the office. I should get going too. Shihao, sorry to trouble you. You don't have to be so polite. Lin Shihao walked her to the door of the office. Bailey Han got off work early and drove to the hospital to visit Xiao Guai. Yi Siki was also there. Xia Dong was feeding Xiao Guai food. Through the glass, he saw her patiently feeding Xiao Guai a spoonful of soup. Then she used a tissue to wipe away the soup stains on her lips. Yi Siki walked up to him. Bailey Han, I want to talk to you. They were sitting in the corridor. The door to the isolation ward was closed, so their voices couldn't be heard. Yi Siki looked up at the glass window. Xia Dong was focused on feeding Xiao Guai and didn't notice them. She lowered her voice and said, Do you really like Xia Dong? She thought he wouldn't answer, but to her surprise, he answered with a serious, yes. Yi Siki smiled. Will you despise her because she's an unwed mother? He frowned. He was an unwed father himself, wasn't he? And I'm saying if, Xia likes you too, will you marry her? Bailey Han's gaze was deep and penetrating. Miss Yi, what are you trying to say? Yi Siki smiled. Don't get so agitated. I just want Xia to be happy. Bailey Han's gaze froze. He said calmly, She has Mika Kito now. They're already engaged. Yi Siki retorted sharply, You and Su Yunqian were also engaged. Are you two together now? Bailey Han's face darkened. She's pregnant with Mika Kito's child. Yi Siki sneered. So you keep saying that you won't despise her child, but in the end, you're still despising the baby in her belly. Forget it. Forget what I said. She got up and was about to leave when Bailey Han's calm voice came from behind. What I really mind is that she loves Mika Kito. If it wasn't love, why would she be pregnant with his child? Yi Siki's back was facing him, and her lips curved into a satisfied smile. She turned around and looked at him quietly. What if I say that she doesn't love Mika Kito? Would you be willing to marry her? He didn't answer, but she could see his answer from his resolute gaze. She smiled and sat back down beside him. She said softly, Bailey Han, I'm only going to tell you this once. Listen carefully. Xia and Mika Kito are only pretending to be engaged. The child in Xia's belly isn't Mika Kito's. She's not a fickle woman. As for whose child it is, don't tell me you still don't know? Bailey Han felt a gush of hot air rush to his head. He was completely stunned. The thoughts that popped into his head were driving him crazy. His heart was pounding like a war drum. He almost wanted to rush in and interrogate that little woman who was full of lies. His deep eyes were filled with coldness as he stared fixedly at the glass window. His gaze was like an icicle piercing into Xia Dong's body. She actually had a fake engagement with Mika Kito. The child in her belly was really his, but she lied and said that it was Mika Kito's. Damn it, how could he fall for such a liar? But he deserved to die for liking her. Bailey Han clenched his fists. He wanted to beat himself up. Yi Siki smirked. You should keep these things to yourself. If you interrogate Xia, she will never admit it. Also, don't rat me out. Otherwise, I won't help you anymore. His voice was filled with suppressed anger. What else do you know? Whose children are Xiao Guai and Xiao Bao? Yi Siki shrugged. I won't say another word about them. If you're interested, you can check it out yourself. She muttered in her heart, Xia, don't blame me. I'm just thinking about your lifelong happiness. Yi Siki continued, don't blame me for not reminding you. Mika Kito will be back in a month at most. When that time comes, it will be much harder for you to pursue Xia. So you better take action now. He frowned. Okay, I'm going back now. You can keep her company. Yi Siki bid farewell to Xia Dong and Xiao Guai and left the hospital. Bailey Han changed into his isolation suit. Xiao Guai had already finished eating and was lying quietly in bed, listening to Xia Dong tell her a story. Seeing him, Xiao Guai was very happy. Her beautiful eyes curved into cute crescents as she said softly, Uncle Bailey, I'm so happy to see you. Bailey Han's eyes were full of smiles as he said gently, why? Xiao Guai giggled. Because you're as handsome as Uncle Shin. Gigai, you're such a love-struck fool. Xia Dong pinched her little nose in annoyance. It was just a childish remark, but Bailey Han took it seriously. He sat on the chair beside her bed and expressed his opinion seriously. I'm more handsome than your Uncle Shin, right, Xia Dong? There was a mischievous look in his eyes as he waited for her answer. Xia Dong was speechless. You're both very handsome. Are you happy now? She had never seen such a narcissistic person. No, Uncle Shen is more handsome. Xiao Guai pouted unhappily. In her heart, Uncle Shen was closer to her, so she had to defend Uncle Shen, even though Uncle Bailey was actually a little more handsome than Uncle Shen. Xia Dong poked Bailey Han's arm and smiled mischievously. See, Xiao Guai doesn't agree with your opinion. It's okay. No matter what Xiao Guai says, it's always right. Bailey Han didn't mind at all. There was a doting look in his eyes as he smiled and stroked Xiao Guai's hair. However, he didn't expect that a gentle touch would cause him to remove several strands of hair. He had a bad feeling in his heart. He calmly hid the strands of hair in his palm and smiled as if nothing had happened. Gigai, Uncle will bring Brother Yi to see you tomorrow, okay? Okay. Xiao Guai's eyes sparkled. She suddenly turned her gaze to Xia Dong. Mommy, let Brother come over too. The three of us can play together, okay? Okay, Mommy will bring Brother over tomorrow. After chatting for a while, Xiao Guai was tired. Xia Dong sang a nursery rhyme to coax her to sleep. After she fell asleep, they quietly left. Bailey Han stretched his arm in front of her and opened his palm. What's going on? Add Song Shu 566. Chapter 164. Xia Dong looked at the hair in his hand and her heart tightened. She said bitterly, she's anemic and doesn't have enough blood, so her hair loss is more serious. Even if she's anemic, her hair loss shouldn't be this serious. He held the hair in his hand and looked at her deeply. Xia Dong, don't lie to me anymore. What illness does Xiao Guai have? Xia Dong gritted her teeth. Anemic. Bailey Han's face darkened. It's okay if you don't want to tell me. I can ask the doctor. You're not the patient's family. You have no right to get the patient's condition from the doctor. I have many ways to get the doctor to tell me. She sat on the bench and covered her face with both hands. Her voice was tired. Bailey Han, don't force me. I'm not forcing you. I just want to know the truth. He just wanted to enter her life and understand her better. But I don't want to say it. I beg you, leave me some dignity, okay? She suddenly looked up at him. Her beautiful face and beautiful eyes were covered with a layer of mist. His heart softened. She wanted freedom, so he gave her freedom. She wanted dignity, so he gave it to her. However, she was the woman he liked. Even if he had to go to the ends of the earth, he would not let go. He did not continue the previous topic. You're tired? I'll take you home. Xia Dong heaved a sigh of relief. She took one last look at Xiao Guai and Gi Gai followed him home. Bailey Han drove seriously and stared ahead. He said lightly, Yun has decided to go to America. Xia Dong was shocked. America? But he said he's going to America to start a business. After Bailey Yun's last confession failed, he went to Charm Club and got drunk. He slept at home for a day and then suddenly announced to his family that he was going to America to start a business. Only Bailey Han knew the real reason. He had been rejected by Xia Dong, so he hid abroad to recuperate. As for starting a business, Bailey Han had reservations. Xia Dong fell silent. She guessed that Bailey Yun went abroad because she rejected him. After Bailey Han sent Xia Dong home, he sat for a while before leaving. When Xia Dong walked him to the door, he suddenly said, I want to touch your belly. Let me feel the baby, he said seriously. Xia Dong blushed. She grabbed his outstretched hand and placed it on her abdomen. She said softly, It's only 3 months. I can't feel the fetal movement. Her abdomen was slightly protruding. When he placed his hand on it, there was a strange feeling. His expression was calm, but his heart was in turmoil. He couldn't help but be excited. That was his child. Even though the child hadn't moved yet, he had a feeling that it was his flesh and blood. He suddenly pulled her into his arms and said hoarsely, Take good care of the baby. She was at a loss. Yes, I will. Okay, I'm leaving. He stroked her hair gently and looked at her abdomen with a tender gaze. His warm gaze made Xia Dong feel uneasy. Could it be that he had found out something? No, that's impossible. If he knew that the baby was his, he wouldn't be so calm. Yes, that's right. It was already past 10 o'clock. Xia Dong was still hesitating whether she should call Bailey Yun to ask about the situation. However, she had just rejected him. If she contacted him now, it would be like rubbing salt on his wound. Bailey Han's words before he left suddenly appeared in her mind. His flight is tomorrow at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. He might not be back for a few years. After this parting, they would not see each other for a few years, and she had always treated Bailey Yun as a very important friend. Xia Dong hesitated for a while, but in the end, she still dialed his number. The call went through, but the person on the other end was silent. She said embarrassedly, Fox, it's me. I heard that you're going to America. Bailey Yun tightened his grip on the phone, the veins on the back of his hand popping out. However, his voice sounded casual. Yes, my flight is tomorrow at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. She bit her lip, not knowing what to say. It was as if she was worried that she would hurt him. In the end, he spoke first. Xia, if I were as capable and powerful as Mika Kito, would you be with me? Xia Dong was silent for a long time. Fox, I treat you as a good brother. I understand. He chuckled softly. She couldn't see the broken light in his eyes. Will you come to send me off tomorrow? I'm sorry, Xiao Guai is sick. I have to take care of her at the hospital. Fox, I wish you a safe journey. Xia Dong used all her strength to say this. Her heart felt as if it was being grabbed by a large hand, painful and suffocating. Since she didn't love him, she shouldn't give him any more hope. City A's International Airport. The afternoon sun was scorching. It shone through the glass windows onto the ground of the departure hall, casting a white shadow. Bailey's family members were all sending Bailey Yun off in the airport hall. Bailey Yun smiled and said goodbye to them one by one. He seemed to have matured overnight. The smile on his face was no longer as unrestrained as before. Instead, it had a sense of stability. He squatted down and stroked Xiao Yi's head. Xiao Yi, second uncle is leaving now. If you have any problems chasing girls in the future, you can look for me anytime. Xiao Yi's eyes were red. She puffed up her cheeks sternly. Second uncle, The next time you come back from America, you have to bring me a little ant. Otherwise, I'll despise you. Oh, you still dare to despise me. We'll talk about it when you're older. Bailey Yun smiled and gestured at his waist. Yun, take good care of yourself when you're in America. Don't make me and your mommy worry anymore. Although Bailey Yun was a playboy, Bailey Xiong still liked him the most. His eyes were red as he reminded him. I know, Daddy. You have to take good care of yourself too. Bai Jingxiu didn't come. Bailey Han patted him on the shoulder. If you have any difficulties, remember to look for me. Bailey Yun grinned. Brother, I've caused you a lot of trouble since I was young. I'll try my best not to cause you any more trouble in the future. Before leaving, old madam, who had always disliked him, also said a few words of comfort. Yun, it seems that you're really sensible. We don't expect you to create a big career. As long as you're safe and sound outside and don't cause trouble, we'll be satisfied. If you have any difficulties, just tell us. No matter what, we'll always be a family. Bailey Yun hugged her. Thank you, Grandma. It was time to board the plane, but the person he wanted to see the most still didn't come. Bailey Yun's lips curled up mockingly. He shouldn't have had any expectations a long time ago, right? 5 years ago, he returned to the country in a carefree manner. 5 years later, he left sadly. The only thing that didn't leave him was the small boarding box in his hand. He didn't have any big luggage. Dragging the small boarding box, he took one last look at the city and the entire departure hall. Then he waved to his family, raised a bright smile, and embarked on a new journey in life. His back disappeared in a bright light and disappeared at the boarding gate. Xia Dong hid behind the shelves of the convenience store in the airport, tears streaming down her face. Suzaku stood behind her and handed her a tissue. She said lightly, Bailey's family has left. Okay, thank you. Xia Dong took the tissue and wiped the tears on her face awkwardly. You're already at the airport. Why don't you go see him? Suzaku talked about this matter in a tone that sounded like she was talking about the weather. Let him leave without any expectations. Only then will he start a new life, right? Xia Dong had already sorted herself out, but her eyes were a little red. Suzaku narrowed her eyes. I don't understand. Maybe he already doesn't have any hope. What he wants is for you to send him off as a friend. But now, he's obviously very disappointed. Xia Dong was startled. If Suzaku was right, then didn't she break Bailey Yun's heart? On the plane, as soon as Bailey Yun sat in his seat, he tightly covered his face. His shoulders trembled slightly, and a weak choking sound came from his throat. Sir, are you okay? The beautiful stewardess asked with concern. Bailey Yun maintained this posture and didn't answer. Only the arc of his shoulders gradually became smaller. Sir? The stewardess called out again, but there was still no response. She took a tissue, bent down and handed it to Bailey Yun's fingers and said softly, Sir, don't be sad. Parting is for a better meeting. Her soft voice crashed into Bailey Yun's pained heart. He slowly took the tissue from her hand and said with a hoarse voice, Thank you. You're welcome. The stewardess smiled sweetly and walked to the next passenger. When he raised his head, he only saw a pretty figure. When they got off the plane, a stewardess stood at the exit of the cabin and politely bowed to every passenger. Sir, please take care. Thank you for taking this flight. Bailey Yun, who had already stepped out, retracted his foot, took off his sunglasses, and carefully sized up the stewardess. She was very cute, with a round apple face, big watery eyes, and a kind smile. Sir, is there anything else? Bailey Yun raised his eyebrows. He recognized her voice. It was the stewardess who comforted him on the plane. He took out a red velvet box from his pocket and stuffed it into her hand. This is for you. The stewardess's eyes widened in surprise. Her expression was very similar to someone's. Thank you, but we have a rule that we can't accept gifts from passengers. She wanted to return the box to him, but he waved his hand. I've already given it to you. If you don't like it, then throw it away. He strode away, leaving her in a daze. Another passenger walked over. She quickly regained her senses and bowed politely. Madam, please take care. Thank you for taking this flight. Duobao, what did that person give you just now? Quickly open it and see. A colleague witnessed this scene. After the cabin was empty, he went up to her and gossiped. I don't know either. Li Duobao was very innocent. She didn't understand why that stranger forced something on her. Open it and see. Her colleague Su Qing snatched the box from her hand and opened it. He was stunned. What a beautiful bracelet. This is Cartier's rose gold bracelet. From the looks of it, it should be specially custom-made. There are words behind it. Summer star. What does it mean? Li Duobao's delicate nose wrinkled. She suddenly thought of something. Maybe it's the name of his beloved. Loved one? Li Duobao nodded heavily. I remember now. Before the plane took off, I saw a man with his head lowered. He seemed to be crying. I took a tissue to comfort him. That man's hairstyle and clothes were exactly the same as the man who gave me the bracelet just now. I think he might be sad because he was separated from the person he loves. Bai Li Yun had a head full of golden hair. It was really too easy to recognize him. Oh my God, just because you comforted him, he gave you such a valuable bracelet? Su Qing wanted to cry. Why didn't such a good thing happen to him? Li Duobao's cute apple face collapsed. But I can't accept it. How can I return it to him? Su Qing shrugged with an expression that said, you can find out his identity through the registration list. But Miss Li Duobao, don't forget that this flight is to New York. Even if you're looking for a needle in a haystack, you won't be able to fish him out. That's true. Li Duobao's little face wrinkled. But even if it's hard to find him, I'll still find him. Su Qing shouted exaggeratedly, anyway, he gave it to you willingly. Just accept it. Why do you have to find trouble? Because I don't deserve it. I won't be able to sleep with this thing. Li Duobao sighed. Besides, this is a gift that he intends to give to his beloved. What's the matter with me accepting it? She had already made up her mind to keep the bracelet well. As long as she found that man, she would return it to him. Bai Li Yun walked out of the airport. It was morning in New York. The city was bustling with people and no one would stop to look at him. He swore that he would let everyone in this city know his name within a year. Lin Yi once asked him why he didn't stay in a city if he was determined to develop his career. It was the place where he grew up. He could also get the protection of his family. He replied that he wanted to be like Bailey Han. He wanted to use his own ability to make the people in Bailey's family look at him in a different light. He wanted to make her look at him in a different light. But at that time, he didn't know that Xia Dong wouldn't wait for him for a year. The thing that Su Yunqian was worried about finally happened. She went to visit the old madam. The old madam's attitude towards her suddenly became lukewarm. Bai Jinxiu, who had always loved her, also distanced herself from her. Su Yunqian knew that her plan was exposed. Seeing that the situation wasn't right, she immediately changed. Tears poured out of her eyes and she said in a sobbing voice, Grandma Mommy Bai, I'm here today to apologize. The old madam said faintly, Why do you say that? Grandma, I know that I'm wrong about pretending to be pregnant, but that's because I love Han too much. Su Yunqian said as she wiped her tears. Her pitiful look was really beautiful. Grandma, you know how Han treats Xia Dong. I'm afraid that he will be taken away by Xia Dong. I'm also worried that he will remember the past because of Xia Dong. His head, ad, Hongcha 866, that you're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.